right, I am going to hereby call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Sunderland Selectboard. Would the Finance Committee like to call to order as well?
I would like to call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Finance Committee with the Select Board.
Wonderful. All right, time is 6:36 for that. All right, we're going to blast through some normal business quickly, and then we'll get to the main show.
They don't.
Well, she's trying to get in. You don't have a quorum.
Well,
It says it has to have a password.
we'll take care of the. Will it let you join, Becky? Will it let you join the old meeting ID? Here. Sorry, folks. Give me a second.
You're going to try to.
I'm going to just try to join the old meeting because that's the one people are trying to connect to, and we'll get
Yes,
it
that would
figured
be
out for
great
next
if it
week.
works.
Make sure you activate your owl camera too.
Yep. All right, and our number is
612-780-253.
all right. That worked.
It did work.
Let's see. We got people in the meeting room. Admit.
So now I need to tell Ally the right number. What's
It's
the?
the same one as it was before. It's on
The first
on
one, the one that's on the agenda.
Yep.
Since she's on vacation.
Alrighty, sorry about the little technical difficulties there. Alright, so we're going to start off today with some regular select board business, and then we'll get into the budget stuff. The first order of business is the select board announcement of an APR project for the Mark D. My eyesight's not great. What's the last name? Kolozinski project. ID number 26A02. And to that note, we have a letter here from the Department of Agricultural Resources, and I'm going to read this first section here. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts, acting by and through its Department of Agricultural Resources, the department, hereby gives notice that it proposes to acquire an agricultural preservation restriction, APR, on the real property identified herein for the purposes of protecting in perpetuity its superior and productive agricultural resources by preventing their conversion to other uses. Do I need to read any more than that, Becky, or is that the...
No,
Perfect.
that's enough.
Alrighty, any questions?
Ally's there now.
Wonderful.
Now we have quorum.
Alright, the duly notified. Next up on our list is the MVP grant letter of support. We had those in the folder.
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry, I thought we didn't have those. I would at the time entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the
23rd of February.
23rd of February.
I motion we approve the select board minutes from 2/23/26.
Seconded. We have a motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 2-0. Thank you. Thank you for catching that. Alrighty. So the MVP agreement is the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program. Becky, do you want to give us a little bit of information about that?
Sure. So the MVP is grant program was established by Governor Baker, and at this point it's really becoming the catch-all grant. For new drainage, for road, for environmental, for COMCOM issues. But it's been many other things. One grant I received was for the solar panels on the Shutesbury Library. So MVP is trying to look towards the future. It's you all went through the process to become grant eligible, and I'm sure you had many meetings and conversations about it. But at this point, we're hoping to get some rewards. The Conservation Commission has been very aware that there's a lot of drainage issues in town. We have a ditch committee, but it's not active right now. And as all this was coming about, the deadline is March 20th. As you all know, I have been very much out of commission, and so I met with Shayna Dean and Jennifer Uncles way back before I left in November, and meanwhile they've been tearing up the road and doing a lot of work and preparing for this grant. And Shane is here tonight to tell you all the work they have done.
Wonderful. Hi, thank
And
you.
what the application for the grant will be.
I'll try to keep it brief. I know we've got a lot of town business to take care of tonight. First of all, thank you for giving me a few minutes tonight. First of all, the reason that I'm here, we're trying to better understand the flooding and drainage challenges that in Sunderland, specifically in the floodplain to the south side, just to give you a sense of the boundaries of the area that we're interested in getting some support for. We're talking about Old Amherst Road, Silver Lane, Route 47 down to the point. So it's like a large teardrop shaped area where we have had perennial flooding issues and challenges. So we're here to ask for the select board's support for an MVP grant application that we would like to submit on the 20th. This would fund a study along with delivery of a 30% public approved initial phase plan to help fix the problem. What the actual project is, we want to gather updated information on how the water moves through the Sunderland floodplain. That includes groundwater levels, stream flows, stormwater runoff, and how the floodplain currently stores water during storm events, which has become increasingly critical for us. This is a planning and data gathering effort only, along with some public education and engagement. It's going to allow the town to build a strong scientific foundation for making decisions with reliable data on how to make ourselves resilient for 100 years. Right now, flooding is affecting homes, farmland. We have culvert issues that are degraded, and we have flooding on local roads. As the storms become more intense, we need to understand how the system works. It's not just one thing. We may acknowledge as a group that this culvert is undersized and not working, but the bigger issue could be a sediment buildup during a critical part of the floodplain runoff, or a lack of storm water storage. So we have to sort of get some science behind any decision making we want to do. We are planning to put forth this grant application in strategic partnership with the Connecticut River Conservancy. They're very much invested in supporting local communities and addressing resiliency tied to the Connecticut River. This is a very strategic partnership for a small town like ours because we don't have a ton of resources for project management and execution. Let's say we were lucky enough to win this grant. The Connecticut River Conservancy's project management is written right into the grant, so they would be executing on managing things like invoicing for scientific studies and making sure that everything runs smoothly. That would not fall on this group of individuals. So that would be written into the proposal.
Hey, can everyone in town meeting hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Who are you?
We cannot hear anything that's happening on the Zoom. There's no sound for participants. We have no video or no sound.
Yeah, sorry about that. Can you put on this little, here,
Thanks, Ally.
thank you for bringing that to our attention, sorry about that.
It's okay. No, one more time.
Okay,
One
now we
more.
can.
Yeah, we don't have to get that detail. We'll keep it quick.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, we did. So sorry to interrupt.
No,
Oh,
thank you so
thank
much
you.
for doing so and not just waiting while we
That
over here with
means
the little
there's
mouths
no
moving.
recording
Here,
here.
I don't
Yeah,
have
I messaged, but I don't think it got through. Yes, now we can hear you. Hi, thank you. Sorry. Going back to my muted self.
She texted me, I didn't notice.
You had other.
Recording in progress.
Do you want a copy
Yeah,
or
that's
now
fine.
that you have a quorum?
Okay, I apologize to everybody at home. We'll
1 second, Shauna. I'm gonna call the finance committee to order because now we have a quorum. We did before, but now she couldn't hear, so it wasn't really a quorum.
Sorry to interrupt you, please.
No, that's okay. So just a quick summary. So we're here to explain an MVP grant application that's going in on the 20th. This is a collaborative effort that between the Conservation Committee, the Connecticut River Conservancy, hopefully the town of Sunderland, if the select board are in support. We're putting forth a grant to do a floodplain study for the south part of Sunderland in the area between Old Amherst Road, Silver Lane, and Route 47. It's a large sort of eye-shaped piece of land. We're hoping to come away from that study with some clarity on how to make South Sunderland resilient to the change, to climate change and to flooding issues that have become more and more common with the change in weather events, the more frequent hitting of those. So we pulled together, Sunderland is sits in an excellent spot to receive this kind of funding. We're strategically aligned with the initiatives behind the whole MVP grant program. The area that we're studying has endangered habitat, it's a cold water fishery area, there's justice elements to it. There is agricultural crop loss due to flooding. All of these are drivers that the state looks very supportively on when making a decision about communities that they're going to support. So we've been encouraged at every step of the way as we started to look into the area we're studying that this should be well received. I mentioned, and I'll mention it again, that we're doing this in partnership with the Connecticut River Conservancy, who will be supplying grant writing support, but also if we were to win this grant, they would be helping to administer all of the logistics of hiring and paying for and running all of those scientific studies, helping with public outreach, making sure that we, interacting with the engineers and making sure that we're really pulling together a science-based strategy to put in front of the town and the select board at the end of this study. So with all that, we're here tonight to ask the select board to support our application for the MVP grant and also to answer any quick questions you might have related to this application.
I have just one real question, and that is the question I always ask, which is money. Is this a 100% grant, and if it, is there a town match? And then the same question goes to, would the eventual grant that we would apply for the actual work, remediating or whatever next phase would be, would that also be something that would be covered at 100%?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So first, you're right that the rhythm of this is first that we apply for a study with partial design, and then we would apply again for a construction-based grant.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the rhythm how several communities in Massachusetts have succeeded. The good news is Sunderland is officially designated a rural town, so there is zero match requirement for the MVP funds for both the design phase and also for the construction phase if we were to get that far. So there is no out-of-pocket cost to the town of Sunderland for this.
Oh, that answers my question.
Is there a map someplace of the area that's being studied?
Becky Dan's in the waiting room. If you
I
can
do
mention.
have a map with me. I didn't know, I can roll it out for you. I don't know what the most convenient. I could actually point to it on that zoning map if you want to just stand up with me for a second. I'm not sure. Here. So it's basically, let me see if this map is big enough. It's Plumtree. Does this go all the way down to Plumtree? Maybe not. No, I'm going to show it to you on this map. Okay. So here.
Here, why don't I hold it up and you can point so that folks can.
Okay. So this is the top part of the floodplain. Here's Old Amherst Road, here's South Silver, and here's 47. You can see it's almost like a mitten-shaped piece. This is the entire area that we'll be studying. We'll be looking to come up with an initial phase of work that would impact the entire floodplain. The very bottom of this feathers into this. This is the bottom point. You can see here Gribco and Russell at this point. So the study area is from this point to this point in this area.
Okay.
Okay?
And here, I'm going to just hold out for a
I
second for
apologize for the.
our folks in the audience. Repeat that from this point down here.
And that's
Up like
the
this.
intersection of Russell and,
South Silver.
Plumtree,
Or sorry.
47.
Yep. And then up this way, up 47 to the intersection of Old Amherst, and then Old Amherst over to South Silver, and then South Silver back down around that way.
One of the reasons that particular outline and area was chosen is because it includes the runoff areas for both Mohawk and Dry Brook, which are the key outflows from the Mount Toby area, and they run through that agricultural area all the way down to that point where Plumtree and Russell and 47 meet. Then there's a very dramatic drop off to the Connecticut River, which is not so much of an issue. You see a very dramatic dive there. The issue is the very delicately balanced floodplain that is seems to have lost some gradient over time. So that's the area we'll be studying.
And we have a draft of a letter of support that Shayna helpfully wrote for me.
Wonderful.
So if you guys are,
just sign one copy of it.
that would be great.
Before we do so, at this time, I would entertain a motion to lend the select board's support in the form of a letter to the MVP process.
I motion we sign a letter of support for the MVP grant process.
Second, Dan Murphy.
All right, we have a motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Dan Murphy.
Dan Murphy.
I did, Murray, yes.
Thank you. All right, 3-0. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Full disclosure, 2/3 of the select board lives inside of that little turnpike, so.
Yeah, we've got,
Not that we have a little bit of an incentive to want to have
we're
it
also
not
working with
flooded,
David
but.
Bout, who works at UMass. He's a hydrogeologist and happens to focus on groundwater. He also lives in the floodplain. We really lucked out on the people that happen to be affected by this, so we've
Very
got a
good.
pretty strong
Yeah.
group of support.
To be clear, not that we would not support it anyway,
But
but, you
it's,
know,
it's a good crew.
absolutely. All right, perfect. And we'll get this, we'll have this downstairs, Dan, if you can come by at some point and let your signature as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna sign off and hit it down, thanks.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Dan. Alrighty, that is the end of our,
I had to add by hand, but we have the Insurance Advisory Committee.
yes. Do you want to do it now or?
Whenever you choose, but
Okay.
we also have Jonathan here today for FCAT.
Okay,
I'll be brief, I know you're busy.
alrighty. Let's do, I'm gonna say we do what we have on here first, and then we'll add Jonathan and the
Sounds
the
good.
advisory committee at the end. Alright, so starting off with the assessor's budget, and as noted, thank you very much for these lovely little folders here.
You're welcome.
Alright. Okay. Alright, so,
No, that's.
I'm gonna start sort of backwards and move way up. The first item is your request for equipment. I don't know if there's a communicated to you or not, but the capital planning committee has a minimum of, I think, $5,000, $10,000, something like that, for it to be considered a capital request. So this request will have to be rolled into your normal budget request as opposed to a separate capital request.
It's,
That's the same one.
it already is.
Okay, it is. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you were on the same page there, because it had come up in the capital.
It is under 01-141-5410, computer support.
5410, perfect. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
The problem between this year and what I hope will not eventuate next fiscal year was the misappropriation to cost centers for ongoing expenses.
Mhm.
CHI, for instance, the mapping,
Yep.
that was in general expenses. Access Pro, well, it's now called Catalyst, also. And so when I first met with Becky, we both agreed that with this budget, every cost center would be used for the correct
Line
line item.
Yep.
Part of it, for instance, computer support, has some money in it for training. As you know, Mary Ann Kowalik's term ends April 30th.
Mhm.
And so it's daunting for a new person to come in. Trust me. And so there is very little extra meat in this, and what it boiled down to is all the figures you see in here are the actual costs.
Mhm.
I called Access Pro. I spoke to Kai Technologies. And with the realignment, this reflects the actual cost per cost center.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so I broke down the cost expectations on the bottom. And you can see each one of them is specific to the cost center. And these are recurring annual expenses.
Sorry, if I'm reading this correctly, it looks like you had the assessor's expenses was a general line item, and you've taken that from $10,000 down to 140.
Yes.
And then replacing that with the 5420 and 5400.
What I just did
Yeah.
was realign the cost to the actual cost center.
Okay.
And so this is the only thing, the only difference, as you, and in your folder, you see the expense for the new equipment.
Mhm.
Now, when I spoke with Becky earlier, she let me know the difficult position we're in. And before we came up, if we have to pair anything, we'll get rid of the printer and we'll get rid of the second monitor.
Mhm.
But that laptop is 13 years old and it's slowing me down because 3 of my tasks require 3 screens. Most of the others require 2, and having to close and switch.
Yeah.
It's slowing me down. And we were inundated today with applications for exemptions and MVEs for this year, since every fiscal year they have to apply.
Right.
And I have a stack that are gonna have to be processed. And if I could just get a really fast, good computer, it would really make my life that much easier.
Yeah, no, we need you to have those moments to be
Yeah.
able to, sure.
But it's straightforward. And again, knock wood, none of our Catalyst and Kai and Access Pro are not raising their fees this year. So everything is flatlined.
That's great news.
Yes. And so it comes down to 58,218.54, but that is really $4,000 more because I had included a 2.8% pay raise. And so if that is removed, it's 4,000 less. So it will be 54,000 and the same change, more or less.
Okay. Any questions?
No, just when you were specking out that computer and stuff, that laptop,
Mm-hmm.
it does have enough ports in it for 3 monitors?
Yeah.
Okay, it just,
Yeah.
that's.
Well, that was that, and I wanted something with 16 gigabytes.
Yeah,
And a lot of the new ones have 1 terabyte, but I went a few bucks cheaper. We only need
Yeah.
512.
oh, it's hard to find something that'll support 3 monitors.
Right. Well, I'm willing to do 2, and then the laptop monitor. I just need some help, some flexibility when I have to do every deed,
Yep.
every personal exemption, every real estate exemption. I have to flip backwards and forwards.
I work on a computer for a living, and I've got 3 monitors, and I would be very sad if I had any less. So we'd be
You know what?
I agree.
I'm willing to settle for just 2.
So would it be a fair statement to say that your priority list would be laptop as a necessity, the extra monitor would be your second priority, and the printer would be great, but not necessarily needed?
Right. And I'm willing, since we really have a monumental chore in front of us, I'll buy the monitor myself. I will.
Okay.
And you know, when I die at my desk, I'll leave it to the town.
I guess one other question would just be, is there a way to see if any other town departments have an extra monitor lying around? Because if we have one that maybe the public safety complex isn't using or something like that, that might get us halfway there. Okay.
The monitor is the cheapest, and I really am not opposed
Okay.
if things are as tight as we realize. No big deal.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. I don't have any other questions. Dan, do you have any questions about this one?
Don't think so.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were gonna be here tonight. Would you like me to forward you 3 copies of this? The
We'd like to see it at
spreadsheet.
Yeah, we haven't seen it, so.
Okay.
Unless you want to pass my packet around and they can look at it while we're.
Yeah,
I'll tell you,
just pass them both
here's
over.
my copy. I will get you several.
Just gonna check these.
Yeah,
Okay.
just take a couple of the whole packet so that it doesn't get,
Hey, Dan, when you have a minute, this is the MVP thing.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
You get a pass, it's your first year doing this. All right, I'm gonna give the assessor, or the finance committee a minute to look those over, in case they have some questions on that. So I think what we'll do is we'll actually put a quick little pin in the assessors, if you guys don't mind, give them a chance to look it over so that we make sure that we capture any questions they have. And we'll go down to our next one, do that quickly, and then come right back to you. Perfect. All right, so next up we have the select board and other town departments' budgets. Alrighty.
Here.
Alrighty, so there's not a lot going on in the select board budget. Becky, do you wanna go through this, or, okay?
I'll go through, I just wanna get down, and you have, that's the select board budget in the first section.
Okay.
You guys, the select board budget is in the first section of the budget that I gave you guys. Not the revenue, but on the expense side.
Top.
And it starts off, so the select board budget is the beginning of the detailed budget,
Yep.
and the annual town meeting budget. The first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down to.
I'm sorry, Becky, do you wanna put it up on the screen for folks that are on Zoom so that they can
That's a
see
good
it as
idea.
well? Do we have that option?
We'll find out.
Do we have the SharePoint folder mapped to the computer that's on the wall?
Oh,
You might be able to just pull
Is
it
it,
right
Becky,
up.
is it the one from the email today? I can share my screen.
oh, that'd be great. Alan.
Yeah, let's do that.
That's the easiest, because my compute, when I try to share, it messes up.
That's fine.
Right, co-host.
There we go. Allow.
Thank you, Ally.
Thank you.
No problem. Just tell me where to go.
Okay, so it's the first top section of the expense budget, that's the revenue side, so you wanna go 2 more pages.
That one. Yep. Perfect.
Cool. You wanna see if you can make it a little bigger?
Close the participants window for now. Top right corner of the white box, little X.
Yep.
And that'll make it a little bit bigger on the screen. Didn't help much.
Okay.
right, but
I
she
think it's
can,
mostly that it's not a very, the screen isn't high definition.
yeah, but she can increase it on her side now. She can, because we don't need to see those notes and stuff on the side.
Yeah, if you hold control and use your mouse wheel to roll it, it should zoom in or out within
Yeah,
the
you
budget itself.
Pinch and zoom in a little bit.
Not you, Becky, Ally needs to do it, right?
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
She is. I'm just sitting here not touching it.
Hey, there we go.
Okay, now we just wanna go back up to the top.
Wonderful.
There we have it, that's the select board budget.
Perfect.
And it's, okay, so line 7 through 13 are all employees. You guys have a question?
I just wondered if we have the same one.
Does she have the same one we have? I think there's only one.
I'm seeing the same
No,
number
she
on mine.
doesn't.
Yeah, 322, 308.
Wow. Nope, that's weird.
Do you want me to not share them? This is the one from the email.
Oh my gosh, I don't know how to, what is this?
It's a lot the same.
Well, let's leave it
What's the-
open
what's
so that
the
we have the
total?
categories and we can just read the correct numbers off of the sheet in front of us.
Yeah, we'll just leave it. Okay, so I'm gonna just. Okay, select board,
No, that's perfect.
budget, the first,
Yeah, that's fine.
6 lines, moderator, select board secretary.
Well, I'll Yep, sorry, give me one second. That's fine. Any questions we have from them, we'll get over to you. And you can-
Okay, I'm
Sorry.
sorry, I have my puppy who's been alone 8 hours.
Thank you.
Sorry, we're good.
Okay.
Thank
Alright,
you.
so we have,
Again, excuse me.
You want me to go down and read the line items?
or I can do that if you'd like.
Yeah, either way.
Okay, so we have the moderator, select board salaries, the select board admin assistant, the resource administrator salary, that's our 4-hour or half-time position, town administrator, then we have the town administrator expenses, advertising, and select board expenses. After that, we have a miscellaneous combination of grant writing consultant, and professional development, telephone for town building departments, which I've pulled up here. We had a major change, overhaul to the phone system right before I got here, and then Mel and I got to sort out how much it all cost. And it turned out it was a lot more than what we had before, but what we had before didn't work anymore. Lawn mowing, veterans memorial grounds, maintenance, technology, town council, and town reports.
Alrighty. So looking down here, the first chunk is all salary stuff, and so that's got either contractual increases or placeholders for, I believe, 3% CO, cost of living increase. Is that correct for those? Okay.
Those aren't figured in here though, correct?
Not yet,
Right.
because we
Yeah.
didn't know for sure
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah, okay. The big things I'm seeing are, it looks like, as you said, the grant writing consulting line and the professional development line, both of those are being zeroed out. I'm also seeing, as you mentioned, the telephone is coming in as a new item in here, but that's not really new. Town audit has gone up by $1,000. Is there a reason for that? We have a,
Well, the price was $14.50, but last year, but I only had $13,500 in the budget.
okay,
So this is what he had requested a year or two ago.
gotcha, okay. And it looks like the lawn mowing is going up from 20 to 24,000.
Yes.
And then we have a flat in the Veterans Memorial, flat on technology, and town council is doubling from 18,000 to 36,000, which admittedly sounds like a large amount, but we've had a lot of need for them over the past year and expect there to be a fair amount of need this coming year. And we don't want to be stuck not being able to pay our legal counsel.
And I do need to come to the finance committee to request an income reserve for legal.
For the current year, yeah. And then the last one is town reports, which is going from 200 to 500. Is that because this is a year with
I
elections,
just
or-
asked Mel how much she spent last year, and she spent $397 last year.
Okay. Okay. So we're just budgeting a
I'm
little
gonna
bit higher.
cut it
so
back
we
to
don't-
$450.
Okay. Okay. And Crystal, do you have any questions on that chunk there?
No, there's nothing there that looks like it's an overinflated cost as far as I could, overinflated change.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything from you?
No, no.
All right. Any questions from the finance committee on those line items?
I mean, what else can be cut in this section, you know? I mean, every department, every area, we're gonna be looking for much lower increases than what this is, and if the priority is town council, because we have these things, that makes sense, but I don't really have an opinion, I just don't know what else we're supposed to do with that.
Yeah, so that, can you just let us know what actually falls in that select board expense line?
I think it's, traditionally it's been the events you go to,
Right,
which haven't been, you guys haven't been going, except for Dan. Dan's gone the last 2 years to MMA.
right, so that's for, like
But
going
it's
to the
been-
Maya conference and paying for hotels and meals and all that stuff if we go.
Do we have a number of what we've used the last couple of years out of that? Because-
Not much. I think it's been closer to, but what happens is, like, we didn't have enough for lawn mowing last year, so I took money from the select board to help pay for the extra mowings at the end of the year.
Gotcha.
So I've used it as a catch-all. Mine first and then yours.
Okay.
Well, then the select board expense should be going down if the budget's shifting down to lawn mowing, right?
Yeah, we're spending less, I mean, yeah, I think we need a hotel.
Yeah, it's just if they do go to the event, it'll probably be, and plus, yeah, I think we would need at least 3,000 to go, if they choose to go to the event in Boston, and the normal fees that come out of there already. But we could cut back the 1,500 if you,
Yeah, I mean, I would,
but then we
We
wouldn't
need
have
to-
anywhere to go when we run out of maintenance.
yeah.
But you increased the lawn, so,
Right, but there's other maintenance, like we just got the alarm fixed. Altogether, it's cost about $3,000 or $4,000. We have a minimal maintenance budget, so. But it is a place we can cut.
Okay.
where, like that alarm, where would what line item is that in? For
It's
example,
in
like where
the-
should it be? You know what I mean? At some level, if we can put things where they should be, that'd be better than having to catch all.
What I'm talking about is I inherited a budget.
Yeah.
Ran out of maintenance.
Yeah, no, I
in
understand.
January, so from February to June, we're hunting for money everywhere
Right.
to cover bills for emergencies.
right, but we're looking
So we
to
would love
correct
to
that for
have-
next year.
That would be great, under town buildings.
We can take the money and put it there, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you really think it should stay, that we need the buffer, let's put it in the
Yeah.
places where we need the buffer.
Yeah, town building maintenance.
So the town building maintenance line item is $12,000, and that's a flat line for the last bunch of years.
And it was, in '24, it was spent 14,200.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
So I mean, I guess what I'm hearing is either we leave it the way it is, or we need to shift, if we want to be more accurate, we shift some of the money out of the select board expenses into the town building maintenance line item, so we more accurately catch where that money's going. So do we want to go down 1,500 of one and up 1,500 of the other, or something along those lines, or?
Well, again, for the next meeting, the joint meeting, I think we need some actuals for what has been spent
Okay.
on maintenance. And however much, history you can find on it, because, we can't cut it down to nothing, but if we typically are only spending 8,000 or 9,000,
yeah,
and we just had a bad year versus we're always over,
Yeah.
those are two different,
Any more questions from this finance committee on the select board and town buildings? All right. Then we will move on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Back to assessors.
Val does have a question.
Oh, sorry, yes.
I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but the moderator and the select board salary, those are separate things in the budget that we vote on, so it's not the COLA from the personnel committee.
We do get the COLA from the first.
Oh, they
time.
do, so those go up by the COLA.
So we never had before, but last
Yeah,
year,
we switched, I was trying to remember.
yeah, last year
Yeah,
we
we switched
decided
it.
that those would go up along with the COLAs. That's why it went from 200 to 205.
Right,
Um,
so those are COLAs, okay. I couldn't remember where we ended that last year.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna jump back over to the assessors for a second. Steve had to leave, his pets were home alone. Did the finance committee have any questions they wanted to ask on that we can at least ask now and try to get answers for?
Yeah, I'm just trying to clarify some of the year-over-year changes, like in this sheet that he gave us has a total of 58,200 and change. Is that the right number, or is it the 54,340 that's in this sheet here? Is, I guess, my first question. Is this updated and this is what we should be going by?
The difference is the 3% COLA.
Okay, the clause. And then the change year over year, I'm trying to do the math on this change column. It looks like it's up about $12,000 over the previous year's budget. Is that right?
If it was
This-
54, I think it was close, I thought it was 46.
This is 49 up on the thing that we're sharing, but then if I sum his change column on this sheet, I get 12,000 and change, which would imply like 46. So I don't even really know what last year's and this year's are. So that's where I'm at.
Okay.
If anyone could clarify that.
And I have the wrong budget.
We will, get that information from Steve for our next meeting.
And like what he's trying to do with moving things where they go, that sounds great.
Yeah.
So yes, let's do all of that, but just trying to assess what the true increase is here.
Yeah, understood.
I like the whole 1,000% decrease. We should do that in more categories.
Yeah.
So the assessors will tell you, the main important change that's in this budget is where, on the reval line,
Yeah, it's going from 6,000 to 9,500.
and the 9,500 represents Roy Bishop's work to do a revaluation on a 5-year major cycle. So it's typically 3,500 and it went up to 9,500. And that's, I believe, the biggest change.
But it's gonna go back down for 4 years and then up
Yes.
and then down for 4
And in some towns, they, to smooth it, they just go, they have a, they would keep it at 45.
Mm-hmm.
But this was 6,000 for the last 5 years, and now it's up to 95. So it wasn't 3,500. The difference is 3,500, not the expense,
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing on there also.
right?
We're on a reval here.
Right, so it's going up 3,500. We normally pay them 6,000 a year. Is that correct?
The bill I paid last year was 3,500. So I think on a regular year, but then in this year, that was for 25. In 26, they did extra work. And I believe that's what accounted for it going to 6,000 because they had his son come in and do a lot more reviews so that we could make sure that we had captured all our new growth.
Right, but what I'm looking at here is in 23, their line item was 6,000, in 24, in 25.
It wasn't the only item in that line at that point. There was 25 for the CAI mapping
Okay.
software, and those two were combined. That's why I was trying to get them separated back out.
So is the 25 for the
And I
other things
apologize.
elsewhere then? Is that going into the
Yes.
tax maps line item then?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So the recalc itself is going up by $6,000 and then removing some money, the 2,500 from the recalc line into the tax map line. Okay. That makes sense. And then we have a sector expense and computer support, yeah, okay. Any other questions on that from either board? For now at least. Alrighty. Next up, we have, let's do the reviewing the draft budget and stuff like that after we've given the folks who were here a chance to talk to us since we're making them wait. Alright, let's do, Jonathan. Is Jonathan's not here currently.
Here is. He's coming around.
Thank you very much, I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Have a great one.
I was watching it on the TV.
There you go.
Well,
I'll be very brief because I know it's budget season and you guys will have a lot going on. So, but thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you. As you know, I run Frontier Community Access Television. I'm the general manager, Jonathan Bosher. And one thing in order, we serve 4 towns: Deerfield, Whately, Conway, and of course Sunderland. One of the things that would help us to help guide the organization so that we fulfill our duties to the town and fulfill your needs is to have a select board member on board, so there's board member representation. This would help us figure out to make sure that we're working with you guys to help do what we need to and everything as well. I know when the original FCAT was settled, that we're celebrating their 20th anniversary this year, and when it was originally settled, there were select board members which were there to help sort of guide the organization, get it going. And then eventually that would kind of dissolve into just residents. I do have copies of the original bylaws. One thing I could say is 20 years ago, we never envisioned these little guys would be here. Everything was cable, and things have definitely moved. And to just sort of help us with guiding and to meet the technological, like I understand that these cameras that we have here, they're kind of old, they need to be outdated, but updating them is not really the most appropriate thing to do because there's more cheaper options and trying to find ways to help fulfill the technology needs and all, so, and if we could get the select board member, and 20 years from now, we'll know where the technology will be. So everything's always changing. It's moving beyond cable, moving beyond, right now streaming's a thing. I don't know where that will be in 20 years, but if we could get somebody from the select board to come join the board, that would certainly help a lot.
Have we ever had, is that one of the things that's on our list of committee assignments? I don't believe
It is not,
It's
because
not.
we would have,
Yeah, we
I can say that right now,
rock, paper, scissors,
sorry. There are 2 people from Sunderland under, Mike Waz, as well as Steve Uncles currently. So there are at least 2 people from the town that are here represented, but this way I think it would kind of help to have like a government official be affiliated, because we are responsible for documenting and providing access to these meetings. And with some of the bills on table, like the streaming bill, it's when it gets passed, it's going to expand the technology and what we'll be expected to do as well. And I think personally, it's a good thing to have. That way, there's equal representation from each of the towns. If you would like to think about this before.
so when do you meet?
Is it monthly?
We meet once every 2 months, so we meet 6 times a year. And actually, our budget meeting's coming up. Our next board meeting, which I'll be presenting the budget, is actually a week from this Thursday, so the 19th.
Okay, is it a daytime meeting?
It's going to be an evening time at
But your
5:30.
your every 2-month meeting,
Yes,
it's always at evenings?
yes,
it's not
at
a daytime?
5:30. It got pushed around this. I'm not going to admit it got pushed around this time because I wanted to try to get select board members from each of the towns and everything, and wanted to sort of find a date that worked for a lot of the new select board members.
So I guess the question really for the 3 of us is.
One thing I should add is we also meet in a hybrid fashion, so you can participate from your home. You don't have to come to the station if you want to.
That's sweet the deal.
Is the meeting though, if you're in person, typically here?
Yes, we do meet here. I have it set up with it now. It's similar to like what you've seen with the total communications committee thing that we're currently doing, but we do have a hybrid and Zoom And we do record and post our meetings. It's only appropriate that the organization that's tasked with doing this from the town do it as well, so we're transparent, so people can see what's going on.
So I guess the question for the board is, do we want some time to think about this, or do we want to just talk quickly and decide who wants to do it?
What day?
Right now, it's Thursday night is the next meeting. That's probably when we're gonna look into doing them. If they're at 5:30, so. I might put out a poll, see what day works best for everybody. Right now, we're doing our next board meeting on Thursdays.
This coming.
No, not a week from this coming, so the 19th, sorry.
So it's one I don't mind taking on if necessary, as long as it stays 5:30 on Thursdays.
All right,
So the tough thing becomes, right, if you change that day.
okay, I understand.
You know, only because obviously Mondays are never gonna work for
Mondays are
us.
select board meetings. I know Tuesdays and Wednesdays tend to be other government
Right.
meeting nights as well, which is why we put it on
Yeah.
Thursday.
I mean, if you're willing to do it, I'm happy to have you do it. If you have enough on your plate already, I will.
Well, we all have enough on our plate already.
Enough or enough?
But no, for every 2 months, 6 times a year, I can,
I'm doing the negotiation committee now, and that's gonna wind down, so I don't mind picking it up either.
all right, and Thursdays is the night you have
Thursday can work
available?
for me. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
That works for me.
Yeah. I thought it would.
All right.
See, you ask, and they just.
Sold to the man who is volunteering. Wonderful. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Dan, appreciate it. I'll send you, I will let the board know tomorrow, and I'll also send you an email with the agenda as well, so.
Wonderful. Well, thank
Welcome
you,
aboard,
John.
and thank you for coming. Appreciate it. It'll help us out in the long run too, so.
And thank you for
and-
including us.
No,
Well, it's
absolutely.
important because, yeah, I'll wrap it up because I know, don't want to keep you guys.
I will take
tied up.
1 second just to say, since we have you here, thank you so much for all that you do for the
Oh,
town.
thank you.
And not just because you record our meetings for us, but just because it's such an important part of democracy is having the people in town be able to see what happens.
I do enjoy the job. I know it's separate from you, but I did enjoy doing that thing on the water district for you
Mhm.
guys. That was a fun project to do, and I look forward to doing more stuff like that for Sunderland as well as the other towns as well, so.
Well, thank you very much for the
Thank you.
progress. Have a
Thank
great
you,
one.
Dan, for
Thanks.
coming on.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening.
Have a great one. Alrighty, that brings us around to our advisory committee.
Alright, I'm gonna try to share this as we discussed.
Are you in the meeting already? 'Cause we
I
can.
am.
So if you click the share button, it should prompt us to give you permission to do so, which I will do right now.
I was fully prepared to stand and everyone's sitting, so I'm not sure what I'm gonna do.
Do whatever you want.
I'll probably go up there.
Yep.
Now that everybody is gone and it's just me here.
So we need to get.
Just wait for them to. You should have permissions now to be open.
Oh, I don't think it's.
Yes.
Hey, there we go. Beautiful.
That's automatic.
Nothing's ever easy.
No, it's not. Alright. Thank you. So, are you guys sort of aware of our ongoings with this a little bit?
Since 2005.
Okay. And I apologize if you don't have a copy of this slide. Okay. So, we're the Sunderland Insurance Advisory Committee. You can go to that. We started in 2022. We formed a committee based on the increasing health insurance costs for everyone, not just us. And the way that it worked was we got members from each of the largest departments in the town. So representation from the police department, the town hall, the elementary school, and the DPW. We previously had a member from the library. She's no longer participating. And yeah, so go to the next one. So some of this I'm going to just read off the slide, and then I'm just going to go. So our committee's continued goal is to make reasonable and well-informed recommendations regarding employee health insurance coverage. And just first and foremost, I really appreciate the town sort of entrusting us to kind of start a committee and do this. It's been honestly a really fun project, just getting to know different people from the town and getting to know the town officials, etc. So we really appreciate that. You know, it's not a surprise since FY23, which was the year that we started working on this. We've seen just a tad under 40% increase to health insurance.
Oops, sorry about that.
No, that's fine. This is something that is unavoidable, right? It's just happening. This is causing, you know, massive problems in many different communities. When we first met in 2022 to address that initial increase for the FY23 year, we kind of got a little bit lucky, so to say. We were tasked with gauging employees' amenability, if you will, to changing the plans, right? And that involved increasing deductibles, increasing co-pays, etc. And we were able to bring that initial increase for FY23 down pretty significantly. That was not a unanimous feeling on that. There were many employees that did not at all want any changes to their plans. But everyone came together, and based off of the survey results from all of the departments, the consensus was to make those changes to the plans to make them a little bit less rich, if you will, and that worked for that. So we set out for an original goal, and I actually copy and pasted the exact line from the original slide that we had in 2022 when we set out to do this. We wanted to get to 75% town coverage by the year 2028 fiscal year, and that was definite. You can go back to the other ones.
Body language on.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I'm trying to make this as dramatic as I can. So we talked a lot about how we were going to do that. We have not had any increases since that original increase for fiscal year 23, which was a 5% increase on the 60%. So the town went from 60% to 65%, and that was awesome. And we set out for this goal that by the year, by fiscal 28, we wanted to reach 75%. And then we were faced with this year's conundrum of even more health insurance increases, which honestly is a large majority or a good portion of that 40% over those years. And we were tasked with how do we represent the employees of Sunderland who choose to make their professional careers here in Sunderland and take care of those people, right? It became quickly a very, very divisive thing, which was basically, the town needs to fix this. And I want to first acknowledge that, it's really hard to see different people's perspectives. Everybody has a different job, right? And sometimes until you get close to that, it's really difficult to see just how complicated something can be. And this was a definite learning point for all of us, and definitely sort of a point where we realized just how bad things are for everyone. So we went back and forth on how we were going to get to where we wanted to be and sort of adjust and manage our own expectations, essentially. And there was a lot of feedback from the school, other departments, that they wanted to, at least for fiscal year 27, to have a 5% increase. Very quickly we realized that there's a lot of limitations right now. Now the conversation has changed a little bit in lieu of the discussions regarding overrides, etc., because obviously short of that there's many things that will need to get addressed differently. So if you want to go to the next one. So what we essentially came up with is a 3-year commitment. And we realized we're not going to get to where we wanted to for fiscal 28, but that's okay, because we just want to show the employees the commitment from the town's perspective, right? And something that we went back and forth on when we were discussing as a committee is, what do we bring to you guys? What do we bring to the finance committee, right? There was some back and forth on, asking for something higher, letting it drop down lower. I don't necessarily like doing that. I like just, kind of taking the pride and the trust in the committee and knowing that we've met, how many times recently? Many times.
4 or 5?
5 times. Yeah.
In a very short period of time.
Yeah, so we wanted to have it be what we truly feel is realistic, again, with that huge caveat of we understand that there's a huge kind of lingering thing in terms of this override, or at least as I understand it, and pardon me if I'm missing something, but this is what we're setting out for you guys as a recommendation. It is a 343 commitment throughout fiscal year 29, which for this specific year would be just under a $20,000 increase. And again, we can then go back to our respective members, employees, et cetera, and tell them that we have this commitment over 3 years. And again, like, the tensions are higher than I would have anticipated in terms of like the feeling of, go ahead, yeah.
Sorry. So, representing
I'm gonna grab my
all the
water.
different employees in the town, looking at the budget, my God, it's astounding how expensive everything is and what the increase is. And even just coming from the school's budget, looking at what the increase is, folks really just want to say, look, my groceries have gone up 50%. I'm sure yours have too. The cost of the pump is higher, so, and some employees are thinking, I'm not even going to get COLA this year. There's a potential for that. Is there anything else that could be done? And so, going back and forth, it was, 3% would really be helpful, would really make a difference. We have some employees who, as you know, is 26 years old. You just got off your parents' insurance. You live by yourself, and you have to get a second job just to pay for health care. And other folks on family plans are like, 1/3 of my paycheck biweekly goes to health insurance. So that's quite a bit, as well as, with all the other expenses going through. So we want you to know that we understand this is to coin the phrase, the perfect storm. But if there's anything that could be done to help support
Perfect.
somebody
And
that
then you kick us off.
does.
So in addition to that recommendation from our committee, another thing that came up pretty quickly that was something that was actually touched on when we first joined together in 22 was the implementation of a flexible spending account, or an FSA. This is something that people have there's a lot of interest in this. And it's a tax advantage way to pay for health expenses, et cetera. It would start off, and you can kind of chime in too, it would start off with a $250 basically front-loaded throughout the year, right? So it gets deducted every paycheck, but the $250 would be front-loaded by the town. And then at the end of the year, anything that was not spent by that employee would get returned to the town, right? So it's sort of, I like to think of it as a win-win minus the upfronting of that, but that's why the number is 250 and not 2,000, right? Obviously it's person specific, and if somebody has higher needs, they would potentially want to put more into it. Eventually. So we put it at 250 for our recommendation, specifically because of everything that's going on, and we want to get this off the ground before we do more with it. Yeah.
What's your estimate of people that will be eligible for it?
That's a hard question to answer. It's available to everyone who is eligible for health insurance, regardless of if they are taking the town's health insurance. So we had crunched the numbers up, and what was it initially, that number?
About 80?
80 people,
Yeah.
initially, we were spitballing, yeah.
So, because the town has to pay the upfront cost to fund that employee's account, so.
Correct.
So it would be like $20,000-ish.
If every single person did it, it could
That's
represent
assuming, yeah.
Well, why
20,000.
wouldn't every single person do it to get a free $250?
Some people don't like just having to deal with it.
Well, I guess that's
You do deal with it if you get 250, otherwise you don't get it.
For $250, you're crazy not to deal, I mean, that doesn't even, there'd
If
be
you don't
no,
spend it, it goes back. What I'm saying is some people don't spend it.
Yeah, I think a
It's
lot of
okay for
people,
that, it goes back.
yeah.
they, like you said, I don't know if they're gonna wanna go through the hassle, but for people who have common, health expenses, again, it's a way that you have this money.
Go to this slide, just, yeah. So, and people are also
Yeah.
saying, like, it also helps to cover childcare expenses. So,
And this was the deductible also that was increased to, was $250, and that's another reason why we made it $250, in theory, that you would have that available to use as a deductible payment, you know, to sort of offset the fact that employees took those adjustments to their plans. And I don't know if I explicitly said it, we asked employees if they were interested in making any additional changes. And the feedback was they wanted to go back on, there were a lot of employees that aren't
Can we go
happy
back
with
to
the
doing
changes
that?
that were already made, so that's completely not gonna happen.
Oh, they want the co-pays gone?
Correct,
That we
yeah.
just added here?
Yeah, so making any adjustments to what we have already is definitely off the table, and that was off the table relatively quickly.
If I can ask a clarifying question, so
Please.
just make sure I got this in my head correctly. You're saying that the town would pay $250 into it at the beginning of the year,
Correct.
and then the employee would elect on their additional contributions of, let's say, $20 a month or something like that.
Yes.
So at the end of the year, we put $250 in, and the employee
If they
puts-
spend nothing, you get it all back.
Okay. And then the idea being that every year the town would put $250 in at the beginning of the year, and then.
Correct, but that money that was put into it would sort of fund the next year's, if that makes sense.
well, we were also hoping that start really small so that we at least get a foothold in so that we can start to build something for the employees as we go along and then increase that over time, but
Okay.
definitely not right now because of the situation.
With zero sum every year, I mean, right?
Yeah.
Zero sum every
I'm
year.
not familiar with FSA, pulling money out of FSAs at the end of the year.
And
Money
truth be
goes
told,
to
I was familiar with, we were more familiar with HSAs, but that wasn't something that we could entertain, the traditional HSAs,
Right, we would have
FSAs.
to have a significantly higher deductible in
Yeah.
order to have a health savings account, which would in fact roll over every year, but this does not. This is, you predict about how much you think, traditionally, how much you think you would spend over the course of the year, and that is what you would, over the year, put into that account.
Yeah, I know, but at the end of the year, you don't get your money back.
You don't.
And neither does the town.
The town's supposed to get the money back.
Well, how-
That's an individual person's
minor-
FSA account.
It ends at the end of the year, though.
I understand
Right,
that,
but how
that's
do we
not-
get our money
Insurance
back?
I don't think the town gets the money back.
Yeah.
And that's
It's
It's
fine.
to
I
use
like-
it or lose it.
That's
Insurance
what I
company
was-
gets
Our
it.
rep told us.
I thought it was employee use it or lose it.
It
And then
is.
Correct.
whatever the town
But
has
we're
put
putting
in.
it into the
It's the
employee's
employee's money
account.
as soon as they have it.
So
So
it's
once we
lost.
put it in there, it's.
Which is
it's
okay,
there.
we want people to use it, I'm not trying, this isn't a
And
revenue
again, this
source.
is
Well,
something-
that was, I did not know that.
This is
That's why
something
it
like,
was-
when we think of health-related costs, these can trickle down to massages and gym memberships and anything of the sort, right? So it's something that reasonably, if you're trying to be healthier, it encourages people to be healthy, right?
All right, there's an FSA store where you can go and
Correct.
you can buy vitamins and you can buy Rolaids and
Yeah.
Tums and Pepsid and obviously
Yeah.
I buy all those heartburn ones, so
It
I.
encourages employees to be helpful, and it also is sort of a container, if you will, for unexpected expenses, right? But undeniably, there's a lot of interest in that. So that is our second official recommendation. Head over. that we're gonna maintain 55% for retirees. That was increased the last time that we did this for FY '23, from 50 to 55. We're not looking for more than that.
At this time, but eventually, I think.
Yeah,
we talked about
we're
eventually.
still, the committee is going to still meet. We still wanna, continue this process.
Looking for some new horizons.
Yeah, even if just to hang out at this point. Go next, yeah. So discussion, just looking to sort of open the floor to any discussions that you all may have on sort of where we're at now.
So I'll start by just saying that we actually discussed last meeting the idea of like, are we doing COLAs or are we not doing COLAs? That was a discussion last time, and I'm of the opinion that we do right by the employees we have, regardless of how many that employees that are. And if the town chooses not to fund an override, chooses not to say we want to fund all these services that are potentially being cut, that means we lose positions, we lose services. The town feels that we don't just ask the employees in town to subsidize our town taxpayers because they don't want to pay for the services that they're getting.
Yeah.
So I'm of the opinion that either way, we're doing right by our employees. Whether we're doing right by all of our employees or less than all of our employees, that's going to be up to the town, but it's a question of, like, I'm not going to ask everyone to just never get raises again because we're going to have horrible years for the next, ever. We're moving into unless something major changes at the federal or state level, this is what the years are going to look like.
Yeah.
And so, again, this is my opinion, I don't speak for either board as a whole, but I'm of the opinion that, again, we do right by the employees, we give COLAs, we have these good faith discussions about health insurance, and we make a decision based on what we would do if the town had given us the money that we need, and then we let the town decide whether they want to
Undoubtedly,
do that or not.
and truth be told, right, like, I understand that, right, and it took a while, even amongst the committee, right, like, just understanding the position that the town is in is not something that's, immediately understandable for a lot of people, or, even employees of the town, right, it's just not, even on the committee for the town, trying to understand the gravity of the situation is difficult unless you have a direct hand in it, right? I joined in via Zoom to the last finance committee meeting, and it was very eye-opening, right? Like there's a lot going on, there's a lot to consider. But once that gets to the, the regular employees, I don't know how to say that, at the employee level, right? They're insulated from that, and they, we try our best. And again, that's, I think, another really important thing with this committee is we, end up being negotiators for the employees of our respective departments, because when they say the questions of like, going to get the pitchforks, and we're like, whoa, it's complicated, right? There's a lot going on. It's a mess, trust me, right? And we try to educate as much as we can, and that's where we're at. Again, we went back and forth on numbers quite a bit between 5, 2.5, all different varieties of that. So yeah, nice. I just want I want that picture because it's a cool picture.
That is a wow, that's a good one.
So and I kind of cut you off. Anything else?
So I think, and again, just speaking for myself, I don't know that I can give you an answer or that we can give you an answer about how we're going to move on your recommendation. What we can say is we hear you 100%. We don't disagree that this is the right direction in the long term. In fact, that's what we agreed to and committed to back in 2023 when the initial thing. We had a couple of years that were rough, and we were like, well, maybe we don't do it this year. But sort of to the point, how many years do you say that before you get to a point where we're just admitting defeat and it's not happening?
Right. But I think saying we agreed to is not really a fair statement. We never agreed to get it up to 75%. We said we would.
That is very fair, yes. No, what I meant is
It's not that we were against it, but obviously we needed the financial ability to do it.
Well, I mean, it's just we agreed to the initial 5% increase when we did it in 23, I think it was, yeah.
And that number, again, just speaking openly, right, just to give as much context as possible, right, and I apologize if I'm speaking out of place. Different people hold different things in different levels of priority, right, and the percentage of health insurance I found just in terms of talking to employees and hearing you talk to employees, right, the difference in what the town is providing for coverage in terms of a percent, even as opposed to if they actually look at what that number difference is, it seems to be very impactful, right? And from the standpoint of obviously trying to attract and retain the best employees that we can, et cetera, it's definitely a cool number to get to. But nonetheless, we appreciate your time just hearing us out. Yeah.
Well, thank
Anything from finance or?
Can I ask a couple just general
Please,
questions?
yeah.
I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this. I know
Yeah, thank you for letting me
you're trying
stand here.
You're trying to bring a lot of people's opinions together into
Yeah.
something and you can move forward in a direction. So I appreciate you doing this, and I'm sure learning a lot about health insurance along the way.
I'm still learning.
Yeah. I haven't been a part of some of these previous conversations, so this is just helping me level set. So you talk about 75% where you're trying to get to, or 65% where we're at. What are other towns around us? What are state averages? Like, what's the context on what in the municipal space these numbers are, and then maybe the non-municipal, like UMass or other, I don't know, that's still state, but what are the numbers and other employers that we're competing with when we're trying to hire people?
Go for it, no, go for it.
No, it varies, right? I don't have the data right in front of me. I know that, I think, please.
Deerfield is 65%, Whately, Conway, and Frontier are 80%. Greenfield is currently 80%, but they may be negotiating down to 75%.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I don't think that's always a great comparison, right? Because some of these plans where they might be paid 80% have a $5,000 deductible.
That was my next question, is how does the
So-
cost of our plan compare as well? Because that's the other.
Right, because like I have a plan that they pay a relatively high percentage, but I have a $5,000 deductible. Office visits are $50, specialists are $75, prescriptions are $25 for generics, $40 for formularies, but they pay 80% of my plan. That's great.
Thank you.
But I have a lot of upfront costs. So to me, it's a really hard comparison just going on that percentage.
Definitely.
Do you also have access to an HSA or an FSA account?
Yes. But zero employer contribution on them. I could put whatever, I could put $10,000 in it, but it's all my money. Nobody's front loading that for me or.
Yeah, I mean, HSAs are increasingly popular in a lot of, I don't know about municipal sectors because those are different consortiums that I'm used to dealing with, but, and that is a big shift for people in terms of how they use their health coverage, and can be cost as well because of deductibles. It's also been a way that certain employers or groups have found ways to invest money in people's HSAs, which is theirs, which does roll over, which unlike FSAs does not have to be used in that year. That's a much longer project, so I'm not looking to dig into that now. I am curious, do we at the town level or at the insurance group level, if it's not at the town level, get utilization data? Like, do we know, is part of our increase because we have a lot more people using a lot more health insurance at our town level, at our group level, or are we on trend and this is just trend for that group? Do we have any of that data?
I believe we're on trend. I don't think there's anything that's. Do you want to jump in?
Well, this was my understanding when we had the conversation with the representative from Maya, was that Sunderland was currently utilizing at over 100%. And that, given we're a small pool, it raises our costs and things like that. So that's the only information that I had. Other than that, I don't.
And I knew last year our claim pool had been very large the prior year and accounted for our close to 20% increase. It softened a bit this year.
And when I
But I
say
don't know
on,
why.
when I say on trend, obviously, like if we are increasing staffing, it's going to, you know, the more people that are
Well, I mean,
on
like,
it.
you know, there's a lot of metrics, and this is outside my area of expertise, about, you know, high claims, you know, claimants and lasering and all the things that the pools do in order to assess what they need to charge to get their utilization rate to their, whatever it is, mid to high 80s number they're shooting for. So I'm just curious what data we get at the town level or at the Maya level. But,
And if I might also put in there, so originally when we met with the Maya rep, she was predicting we'd be anywhere between 18 to 22%, which was quite staggering. And then mentioned that the loss of, or cutting back or reducing the GLP-1 drugs would bring us back down to the teens. So the fact that it's even lower, my thought was, how did the town get it even lower than that? Because that was, we were pretty stunned with the initial numbers.
Well, you roll off some of those high claim months and quarters, it can shift, you know, you run it again 2 months later and all of a sudden it looks better or worse, so.
And the GLP thing was huge. That was,
Everybody's
in the
wrestling with that
industry,
issue.
that was definitely a disruption for sure. So, okay.
I'm curious, have you investigated any of the administrative costs that come with running an FSA? Because sometimes the employer pays, sometimes the subscriber pays, but it's not free, right? Yeah.
Do you mind?
Good,
Do you know?
please,
Okay.
yeah.
My understanding is that there's a $250 per month fee, is that correct? And then $4 per employee?
No, the $250 is an initial setup.
Initial
fee
setup,
to
thank
all
you.
the Paperwork.
And then $4 per.
Per employee per month,
Per month.
that's on it. But it'd be like a subcontractor would run the program and do all the calculations, so we're not just, it's not all being dumped on Heather.
Yeah, they would
She
administer
would
it.
interface with the Maya group, well, it's
They'll
another
administer it
agency.
for a price.
Yes.
Okay.
So
we
that,
don't-
is the $4 per employee per month paid by employees or paid by the town?
Town in town.
I think that's the price to cover the management.
And if we're looking at a maximum of around 80 employees, if everyone were to join,
And that's
we're just
not-
talking worst case scenario
yeah,
here,
not-
just
yeah.
to get an
And
idea.
so we don't currently offer FSAs to town
No.
funds.
Correct.
So we look at $300 a month.
And if there were not matching town funds, is there still a demand and interest in having FSAs?
Yes. That was across the board, that seemed that people were overwhelmingly interested in that.
So we
for
can
sure.
fund just the setup of the thing, right?
I'm curious if there was any discussion about offering a high deductible plan option, because I mean, if you're young and healthy, it can be a good deal. And I know when I worked for the city of Greenfield, I believe the city covered a higher percentage of the deductibles with a high deductible plan. I think it was 80 for that and maybe 75 for a more traditional plan. Was there any discussion about that or appetite among
They already
employees?
have one.
Yeah.
They do have one?
Yes.
An option?
Yes.
But we pay the same percent even though we have one of that.
So we have a select plan where 70% is contributed by the town as opposed to the 65% on the other plans. But as far as any appetite for a higher deductible, no. Yeah.
Well, one of the things we had discussed, I think it was last year or the year before, is there a way to incentivize married employees taking their partner's plans? One of the things that we run the risk of with making our plan better is if you make our plan just a little better than that person's spouse's plan, all of a sudden now you have a family of 4 or a family of 6 on our plan where you didn't before. And our question last time was, is there a way to incentivize it in the other direction, like offering a stipend, or maybe a flexing savings account kind of contribution to employees who are opting to take their spouse's plan, as a way of saying, hey, we'll sweeten the deal even more. It only costs the town $500 a year to give you $500, FSA contribution, and we don't have to pay for the whole year. So those are things that we could definitely continue to have conversations on.
Can you possibly do that?
Sure.
Okay, so
There's a whole bunch of places.
I
to
have
do
no
that.
problem talking about what my company does.
Okay.
My company if my spouse is eligible for health insurance through their employer and chooses not to take it, I pay an extra $125 a month on top of my two-person plan. They surcharge me $125 a month for him not taking insurance.
So if this spouse or other person on the plan has eligible plan elsewhere and doesn't take it, there's a surcharge. Okay.
Correct. We
Would
have
that-
employees that's the
Okay.
case as well.
And I'm not suggesting that we necessarily go quite so stick on that. We
You
need
know, more carrots.
because there's a lot of room for carrot and still having the town,
Yeah.
you know, there is a circumstance in which we could offer something that would allow the town's liability for costs to go down, allow the employees to have a better financial situation because let's say their spouse's plan is $100 more a month and we're offering $150 a month of a stipend, they could come out winning by taking the other plan with our stipend and everybody except for their employer wins. Again, not saying that that's necessarily something we're going to do, but it's something we have discussed in the past as an option to try to, yeah.
And I did put feelers out at the school saying, look, if we went to 70%, would you take the town's, sign up for the town? How about 75%, would you do that? And the majority of the folks that came back said, you know what, I'm not taking it because, 80% is covered by my spouse's
And then we also
employer.
looked
So-
to see if we would be eligible for any type of reduced rate for Maya by having a higher volume. But we're not quite at that point where only a few people add on, right? Obviously, as your members increase, your rates go down. But, we have a relatively small pool.
It would be useful to know, I know there's a lot of restrictions on data around this, and rightfully so. It'd be interesting to know the numbers, if they could be shared among whatever group is working on this, of how many eligible employees are taking other plans versus how many eligible spouses are taking ours. Like, what is that net flow? Like, if literally everybody's in our plan, that's telling us something about our plan. If everybody's out of our plan, that's telling us something else. I'd be interested to know that if that was knowable.
Could we just ask Heather how many town employees are taking the plan, and then
I don't know what level of data is shareable or not. I'm not sure.
We don't have the level of data about the spouses.
We don't, no.
That would be,
We don't
that would-
Well, no, we would know whether they're paying for a single person plan,
Or
a
a family.
two-person plan,
Yes,
or a family.
we know
But in
that,
terms of
and
if
we-
they're paying a penalty, et cetera,
yeah, we also wouldn't necessarily know whether somebody who's not on our insurance is specifically on a spouse's insurance, or maybe they qualify for mass health, or maybe they, whatever.
Right.
So we wouldn't necessarily have a lot of data on that side of things. We can definitely ask Heather to give us data on where we stand currently.
And it's at 50%. 50% of our eligible employees take our health insurance, which seems kind of low to me.
Okay.
over and over again, it's definitely like, it's been high, it's been expensive, right? Just people who are talking about spouses insurance, et cetera, talking about, just what they're paying, specifically the family plan is very high. I mean, what was that number? Was it almost 12,000 a year?
A year, yep.
Yeah.
You're seeing only 50% take it now.
Only 50.
And you know,
What's the typical one?
you know, again,
Like 75?
notwithstanding other circumstances, right? If you have, somebody from the school that can aid, et cetera, which is, required to operate, and they're paying $12,000 a year for a family plan, for example, right? That's it's a lot. It's a lot of money, right? And that's
We do actually have an instructional assistant who actually takes the town's insurance on the family plan, and that's because, they have children that are in college and out of state, so they need to have the highest family plan in order to be able to cover their health insurance.
And again, our position isn't going to change from where we want to get to based on what we did when we started this last time, right? We want to get to that number, and again, we were comfortable sort of with the understanding that it would not happen by fiscal '28, and obviously, not even going for the 5%. There was a lot of the feedback was the employees want 5%, right?
Because they hadn't had
Or nothing.
any increase
Right.
in a while, and they were like, look.
There's a lot of feelings on this.
Yeah.
And, even just getting
And
people
rightfully
comfortable
so.
with the 3-year scheduling of that. So again, that position on our end is not gonna change.
And ultimately, they were hoping for a 3-year written agreement of some sort saying, yes, we'll commit to doing this over 3 years.
Yeah, because when we previously did this, we only made the recommendation from the 60 to 65. There wasn't a formal recommendation that we get to this by fiscal 28. It was a goal that was mutually talked about, and that's the direction that we wanted to head in, essentially.
Well, I think it's challenging to allocate future budgets. Like, I think any time this gets agreed to in whatever phase, it'd be an agreement on the current year, and yes, we'll hope to get there next year, but we
Right.
can't pre-allocate that money.
Right, we don't know if the
Yeah.
next 5 years are
Right.
gonna be like this year.
And listen, ultimately, we come to the table and we put forward what the committee recommends, and you
Yeah.
guys digest it and kind of process it and come back to us, Again, I sincerely appreciate the time and whatever you guys,
Definitely.
please.
Do you have a sense if the employees if you only could get one, would it be the 3% on the premium, or would it be the FSA?
Everybody wants everything, but it seems.
I would really need to go back and poll, but my feeling,
Both.
they want both, but you also have to look at, in that whole salary range type of thing, it tends to be people who are on that higher end of the salary range want, the FSA, and the folks who are making it like bi-weekly, they're
Want the
just like,
percentage increase.
want the percentage, because they're just feeling it, I mean.
Well, the 3% is gonna compound, and the 250 is a flat number. Like, 5 years from now, you're
Yeah.
probably better off taking
Yeah.
the percent.
Yeah.
Just-
Well, and
Yeah.
pursuant to our last little bit of a conversation, the 3% increase makes the plan more attractive to people. The FSA money doesn't, because it doesn't actually change the plan, and is also available to people who aren't taking our plan. So it's also a benefit that is more broadly applied to everybody in town, whether they take it or not, and kind of goes back to what we were just talking about, doesn't take away from people wanting to use their spouse's insurance, because hey, it gives them an extra $250 a year to pay for their spouse's insurance or to help with their deductible on that end. So if I had to choose one of the two, I would lean towards the FSA because of that specific part of it. Because I'm only partially worried about 20% increase with 3%. What I'm more worried is 20% increase from 3%, and then 2 more families come on the plan because it crossed that threshold. That's not a 20%, that's not a $20,000 increase, that all of a sudden becomes.
And again, the feedback, just so we're clear, the feedback was not that there are people that are just waiting to do that, because that was specifically.
68% was not a.
Specifically, we wanted to know what would happen at that time to entertain, if we could work with Maya to get a reduced rate by adding more members, right?
Yep.
So we specifically gauged the interest of if people would add on at these different numbers. And we even asked crazy stuff like 10% increase, right? Just because if we could get a reduced
go
rate
right
for
to
Maya,
that.
for example, and that offset some of the cost, right? If there was a threshold that once you reached in terms of members that you would get a slightly reduced rate. We just wanted to do that just to gauge people's interest. And it really seemed like even at that rate, there wasn't
The low
people
people
waiting on the edge
aren't
of their
gonna take
seat.
it anyways because.
So the concern of a bunch of people simultaneously jumping on board from what we've gathered is almost non-existent.
Well,
Obviously,
when it goes up 10%, do you think that'll change or not?
what's
Say that
that?
one more time?
When it goes up if it ever goes up the full 10% to 75, do you think that it would change?
We asked again specifically
Yeah,
to
but
gauge
they
if.
said no?
No, I
If it's
mean,
not 80.
80?
yeah. It's been, again, it's
But
been.
again, I can, if you want real hard formal numbers, then I'll run them.
No, it's good to have
Yeah,
that I sense that you talk to people and you know.
a lot, like, yeah, offline, like walking into classrooms or
And again,
the library.
the recommendation for the scheduling of it, right, as a 3-year commitment is in terms of like the 1 year and then we're gonna talk about it kind of thing, was that reduced number, right? And obviously everything is subject to where the numbers land on the back end in terms of the override and everything, right? But we fully intended to come with not only a 3-year recommendation, but to have that first one be 5%, right? And that's why the reduction to 3% with that commitment for 3 years was sort of where we were comfortable with it. So that at least, you know, we can go back to the members and say, we didn't get the 5%, but they agreed to continuing what we wanted to get to initially, right?
In good faith.
Yeah.
Any further questions from the select board or from finance committee?
Thank you for your work on this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening and taking the time to hear us out. I appreciate it.
And I think 1 second just we live and say, man, it's a shame we don't have single payer, because this would be so much easier.
Yeah, so you hadn't said that today.
No kidding.
And I just want to acknowledge for all of our sakes that health insurance is one of the hardest things that all of us are trying to figure out. I know in terms of personal finances, in terms of town finances, in terms of state finances, federal, it's such a huge issue right now because it's just out of control in an astronomical way that's just not sustainable. I'm sorry that that's the case for all of us, and we'll do our best.
It is for all
All
of
these
us.
small groups competing with each other, it's, oh my God.
It's rough. Yeah.
Yep.
Is there anything else that you would want from us,
Task us with something.
even on the back end, just information-wise, just to assist going forward, et cetera?
I want to get clarity on the FSA, because when we sat down, Heather and I sat down with.
So
the
Dan
bylaw-
just looked it up, and it does look
It looks
like,
like it comes back from the
it looks
employer.
like it goes back
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
employer.
Yeah, she was
We were
clear
pretty
on that.
diligent on that, yeah.
Yeah, which I, so,
We just wanted to make it
Right.
small to get it off the ground, because if
Yeah.
we made it, you know,
So,
up to 2,000,
I
that
guess-
would be hard to front
do you
load.
have an FSA, Dylan?
I thought,
Yeah. The employee gets nothing back if they don't use their
Right.
money.
You just lose it.
But mine was never preloaded by the company, it was only my,
Yeah, I didn't have
my
any
money. So I'm wondering if any money that didn't get used still went back to my
I
employer.
think that's right. That's why they sell, that's why they sell.
Or if it's just
That's
the
why-
250 that goes back to the
Sounds
employer.
like Crystal's talking to HR
But
tomorrow.
it's just the,
I want my 50 bucks.
No, but
You
the,
know, I have 1 year.
putting
Since
250 in
we're
each
not-
person's
Oh,
own,
yeah.
I do too, but-
like, do we just get that back, or do we get the money, if they don't spend
It's removed
that?
from your income for tax
the
purposes.
town we get what they don't
Yes.
spend.
because you're spending pre-tax dollars.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with
Yeah, because I
employer
wouldn't even
FSA
consider
contributions, but
How can you do that?
Thank God.
You really did.
Alrighty, I think we're good. If we have any additional questions, we know how to get a hold of you. We will pass them along. Thank you so much for the presentation, for all the hard work that went into it.
Appreciate it.
And we will do our absolute best to try to
Yeah,
come up with a plan.
excellent, thank you, and thank you, Finance Committee as well, thank you.
All right, so that is all of our presentations tonight. Up next is a review of the draft budget, and then followed that by a discussion between the select board and the finance committee of that draft budget and where we stand.
So just so you know, the finance committee still has quorum, but Ally's dropped off because there's no power, but we still have 4, so we're still a quorum.
Okay, great.
She's got no power in her house?
No, she's somewhere.
Oh, okay. I was just
I
gonna-
asked her if she's in Puerto Rico, I don't know where she is.
All right, well, no, it's just because me and Nathaniel are kind of close to her, so I was gonna.
She's not home.
She's
I don't know
over
where she
here.
is, somewhere that the power went out.
We don't have to worry as much this up. Okay, great.
Okay, so
So
that's
let's
gone.
start with, where is my budget?
I'll watch for her to come back with it.
No, it's just.
No power, no.
Alrighty. So, starting off with our little projected revenues form. According to this, our increase in property tax levy limit is $242,236. Changed from FY 26 to 27, and that is a 3.2% increase. In just to harken back to our last conversation, we were talking about that, and 2.5% is like what we can increase the rate, but there's always a little bit of new growth that brings that up to something more like 3%, which is where we are. So that's our new money coming in. And then is the 91,820, that's increase in money coming in from the government, right? From cherry sheets and whatnot? Okay. So that's an additional increase of $91,820. and a net state aid total increase of $36,770. And then on the other side of things, if I'm reading this correctly, we have $1.5 million of increase to the budget. Is that the correct number there?
Increased, so basically, yeah.
Yep.
1 point, how much?
That's the
1.5.
increase. That's going from, there was extra cash. So it's going from a positive cash balance after the recap hit of 188,000 to a negative 1.501 million.
So why does the,
That's just the difference. That's just the change.
because I got
The
Yeah,
numbers
well,
are
the
different.
balance-
The numbers are different on the electronic from this, so I don't know which one we're supposed to use.
Yeah, I'm looking at the electronic one. That's not updated? The one you emailed yesterday?
Yes, it is.
That's the one that she was sharing earlier and didn't match what we had in person.
So the paper ones don't have that.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. They're thematically the same, even though there's some differences. I think the first thing on the revenue side to still talk about is both of these sheets assume zero usage of free cash to balance the budget. Now, last year, we used $250,000. We also used $50,000 to fund OPEB, which that's another conversation. And then we also used $138,000 of stabilization. So the gap right now is real, but it's also not apples to apples. I think we first need to make a decision about what the healthy amount of free cash is to use, to then set our revenues, and then we can look at what that gap is. Do you agree with that?
No, absolutely. And usually, at least in my experience, we start with adding nothing to the budget, so we get a feel for where we are right now, and then we start to add the free cash.
Yeah, and I felt like it was the select board's decision. I didn't want to just
Yeah.
say, oh yeah, we do this.
On that
every
note,
year.
I did,
And finance committee's decision.
we did have a capital planning committee meeting this last week, and did have a discussion with the membership of that committee that we are almost assuredly not going to be putting any free cash into capital stabilization this year. We have in the past tried to put around 200,000 every year in order to try to grow the capital stabilization account, knowing that we have a school roof replacement coming up in the very near future. This year, both because of the dire situation of the operating budget and a very actually healthy position for the capital budget, we're being able to, we haven't made final recommendations yet, but the presumptive recommendation is going to be a capital stabilization budget that leaves money being left over for the future year. That being said, we're not going to ask for any money out of free cash. So we could likely put more of the free cash into the operating budget than we have in the past, because we're not also trying to fund the other bucket as well.
Do you have any thoughts about the capital override amount, and will that go up by 2.5%, or what are the options around that?
Yep, the capital override amount goes up by, or has the capacity to go up by the same 2.5% that the operating budget does, and the select board votes year to year every year to do so. So it went up to 421,000, I think it is this
430.
year. 430,000 this year. And just for context for everybody, we did have a little screw up last year where we didn't collect that money, and so it went from like 400 to not 415 to 430. So it should have been like 415 last year, and it wasn't because of that. But we did still keep track of the increase to the capacity to levy that, and that is still increasing 2.5% over last year's potential that we didn't realize. So yeah, 430 this year. Next year will be 442 or something like that. So just to bring it back to the budget, that does mean that we will, in theory, have more of that free cash available for balancing the budget. Of course, we also don't want to use all of our free cash and end up in a position where we're overextending ourselves and then we don't have as much free cash next year, and we're also starting off next year with a budget that's overly inflated by free cash that we shouldn't have spent. So that's sort of a conundrum of itself. Where are we on the free cash, by the way?
We started at 600,000. We used, I think, 37 at the special town meeting. So we have, it's 500 and something. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's 500,000.
Yeah. Which is still a healthy amount. It's been more in past years, but that's still a healthy amount. So just throwing numbers out there, we could potentially see using 250, 300,000 of that on the budget and still have a healthy amount of free cash. Do you remember what the state recommendation is for how much free cash we're supposed to carry? I want to say it's
5%.
5%. Yeah, that sounds right.
Do we have an idea of what we think currently the run rate is for the addition of free cash at the end of the year? Obviously, we have some budgets that we don't fully spend. That's why cash, when they've certified, ends up being bigger. What is that number? Because that's the amount we could, if that's the concept, that's the amount you could plow into the budget every year and nothing would happen, right? You're not actually using free cash because it's replenishing. So do we know what that number is roughly?
It must be about the 300,000 because it appears to have been replenishing the last number of years.
And do we think that's steady even with some of the challenges we've seen on local receipts and other items and
No.
other budgets getting tighter?
No,
And-
it's no longer possible.
Okay. So
Because
what do we think
last
it is?
year, it's down now to 80,000.
No,
I mean, the run money, the money that we used to replenish through the local receipts.
Mhm.
The local receipts, and that's what I'm talking to the auditor about, trying to figure out, is this gonna be an ongoing problem
Mhm.
for us? Because our local receipts, we had to use 200,000 more, basically 180,000 more in local receipts just to set our tax rate.
Mm.
So our tax, to balance, to meet the, we had to raise that money to close the year because we had 40,000 in ice and snow that we didn't expect, except we never increase our ice and snow. This year, it's probably gonna be $80,000 or more. That's gonna go hit us on the recap. And those are it's gonna go against our free cash total. So any money that could have been free cash will be eroded by the increase in the local, in what is required. Because we were we kept plugging our deficit with free cash, but it kept growing.
Yeah. So, and I'm sorry to ask this again,
No,
because
no,
I'm not understanding this piece, because I'm new to this. So, for FY '25, last year's fiscal year that closed, when we went to close the books, you're saying we had to take some of the local receipts from FY '25?
26, I guess it was. It was 26. It was
Aren't we in '26 now?
Yeah, but it was,
So we had to take some of FY '26's current year money and push it back to FY '25, is that what we're saying?
I can't be sure on the
Okay.
direction. But
I'm
it
just trying to
had
figure out
be
what
used
money
in-
went where
Yeah.
and why, I guess.
I think because the deficits created, we had, so on the recap, the challenges that you have with, like our charter money, if we have sending charter tuition, we have to pay that.
Uh-huh.
So if you have 3 students go to the Chinese immersion school, you pay $100,000.
Okay.
And it's these accounts that they can take the funds. They don't wait for you to have the money. They take the money when you're settling out your books. So they take the extra money that so they charged us $200,000 in sending choice. So we have to come up with $200,000 to send out the door. And that's not part of what we're figuring out when we do the budget. That's additional amounts that we're having to compensate for.
That closeout, when you close out the budget.
Right.
Close out with the state.
Yeah, because you're not just closing out our budget, you're closing out all our state accounts. And if there's any shortfalls in our funding levels, they take our free cash.
That we were hoping to get next year.
Yeah,
But that's on the cherry sheet stuff on the budget,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
What we're paying for makes sense to me, like the Chinese immersion school, so like, I'm just getting confused about the fiscal years they're landing in, like, so this is we have lower local receipts in FY '27. The fiscal year that's starting, because there's a budget working on, next July 1. What has happened last summer or this fall that's taking that money? That's where, It's the time that I'm getting confused by here.
Okay, I'm sorry, I
Okay.
have to think, because the timing is confusing with the tax recap. It's really settling FY '26, but it's the current year, but it's not. I mean, they call it FY '26, but we don't close that out until July. I'm sorry, I'm not helping with your.
No, I'm sure the numbers are right, I'm just trying to understand it better.
And just to confirm, the difference in revenue, because it looks like our revenue total is going down by $186,000, not that. That's that difference in local receipt you're talking about.
That. I'm sorry, where are you looking right now?
I'm looking at the end of the end of
The revenue?
the revenue page. The last three lines are revenue total, FY '26 budget, and difference. And I'm looking at at the top line, the revenues total. The fourth and fifth columns are 11,181,000, and then 10,935,000. So it looks like our revenue is going down by almost $200,000, or a little more than $200,000, right? 240, yeah, it's 246,485 in the next column. So we're seeing our revenues go down by 2.5%. Is that correct?
Yeah, but part of that's because we had free cash in there last year, and this year we don't. Like, that's part of
Right.
it.
So that okay, that is
Yeah,
And
so the free
stabilization
cash-
and OPEB, like those by themselves is $440,000 that were in last year and aren't in this year. I'm not saying they're supposed to be in this year, but
We just haven't
that's,
We haven't put it in there
decided
yet.
what to put in for
Right,
those
gotcha.
amounts
Right.
yet.
okay. So okay, that was the part I was trying to wrap my head around is why is the number lower? It's because we
Oh, I
haven't
see.
added those in yet. That's
Yes.
gotcha. Never mind. All right. So if we were to put $250,000 of free cash in, for example, we'd be looking at basically a zeroed out budget this year revenue side. Okay,
exactly.
makes sense. We're still seeing though that aside. $12,250,000 is our current, or $1.25 million is our current increase for a total of $12,250,000, which is the $1.3 million increase over last year. And then when you count in the revenue shortfall, that gets us up to $1.5 million. But probably more like 1.2.5 when we were talking about putting some free cash in. Okay. Wow, that's horrible. Don't know what else to say other than that. So if we're looking at a 1.5 million on a 11 million, we're looking at 14% increase, 13.5% increase, something like that total. I don't see a number here, but I'm just doing that in my head.
11.
11%, okay. Is that for just that's just for the expenses though, that's not counting the.
It's got to be more than 11. Unless you're saying 11 on top of the 2.5.
I think the 11 is the 1.3 million on top of the 11 million.
Okay.
Not the 1.5 million on top of the 11.
The 1.2
Yeah.
255 million.
Okay.
Instead of 2.5, the rate we need to balance that is we're at 14.
Yeah. I'm not sure how to continue this discussion. We don't have that money. We need to figure out how to close that. And we also last time had discussed trying to figure out today what number to start talking about in terms of overrides if we are moving that direction.
And give guidance to town budget holders what they should be thinking about where the override passes, or we're trying to get through and make it, or when the override fails, right?
Yep.
Right, so I mean, I think there's a lot of things too that are still unknown, right? Because we're still waiting on Sunderland Elementary's final number, correct? You vote on that tomorrow?
Yes, and I haven't seen it yet.
Right, so we don't know what that final number is. South County Senior Center, the dollar amount in there is as though they're moving over to the new building. If that doesn't pass, we don't know what their budget looks like to stay operating how they are right now.
I think they have those too.
It was odd, Jen did a budget, and then she said Peter told her she couldn't submit 2 budgets, the TA
Who's
and
Peter?
Whately.
Well, we're not
We
the
need a
TA,
second
we're not the TA in Whately.
Yeah, we want all the
I
info.
don't
Yeah.
think you did, I think they did too.
Yeah, but again, it doesn't matter what Whately told her.
So she didn't do one, but, do you know if she's done one, Dan? Should
I do not know the,
I thought
I
she'd
thought she'd
already
done
done
one
it,
previously.
but I didn't
Yeah,
see
I
it.
saw you when it
Okay,
was coming through,
could
yes.
you ask her to send us one?
Yeah, of course.
That'd be great.
Yeah, because South County and South County EMS are the two that were, huge.
Yeah,
enormous
so
percentages
South
of
County
these enormous
EMS, we can't, it's not really huge, is the problem there. Even though it looks like a huge dollar amount, at that special town meeting, we voted to allow them to use their,
Excess and deficiency or whatever they call it.
no, their retained earnings.
There we go.
We voted to let them use their retained earnings to purchase the ambulance, where that retained earnings used to be what they used to reduce their budget.
Well, and that's where, my takeaway from that is nothing should go through a special town meeting that doesn't have to go through a special town meeting. That special town meeting was for the senior center that didn't even make it on there.
Correct.
All this other stuff snuck through.
As
and This is a
afterthoughts,
huge problem
because- yeah.
because of that.
Yeah.
So that's my takeaway is I'm not supportive of anything not going through the regular budget cycle unless there's a pressing time emergency where it cannot wait.
Right, and that's what South County was, they had to make that decision whether to, and again, right or wrong, they felt like they were under the gun to make that decision to purchase that ambulance.
Because they knew that they wouldn't have gotten it if it came through regular town meeting.
Which,
Well, the timing was he had to do it by January, but
But again,
whatever, we could have said no.
Yep.
And I think I might have been the only person who voted no. Just
good
saying.
job, Beth.
Wasn't unanimous.
yeah, so I don't know what we can do there, because there's nothing else in that budget that is,
But he didn't say, I'm gonna need 100 grand.
no, he said he was taking it from retained earnings.
Yeah.
And he did state that retained earnings in the past have been used to reduce their budget. There's nothing more simple than looking at, he took $400,000 out of retained earnings, there's 400,000 not available to reduce that budget, right? I mean, that's,
Well, what's the returned earnings now, even after taking out the 400?
I believe it's maybe like 30 or 40,000, I mean, it's depleted down low. And their future is that they're gonna use their retained earnings, or their intent, again, they have to finish the discussion. They'll keep their retained earnings for the ability to purchase new ambulances and stuff, so they won't be coming to us every 3 or 4 years looking for money to purchase an ambulance. And then that would keep their, instead of every 3 or 4 years getting a huge jump because they need to buy new equipment, they'd do that out of their retained earnings in the future. I mean, that's his long-term plan with retained earnings. Which is probably, once we get settled on it, it's probably the better, right? Because then, when we see his budget, we'll know it doesn't involve equipment, it's employees, expenses, minus the.
And that was the selling point for me, was I'd rather take 150,000 every year than 400,000 every 4 years, because that's harder for the town to absorb on any given year than if we were amortizing that over the course of every year. Doesn't help us this particular year, but I still think that in general the idea behind it is sound in terms of leveling out the overall budget asks instead of having spikes every couple of years.
It's just a weird budget planning to make a capital decision that leaves you with a 30% increase in your operating budget for the following year. I understand the math of it, but that's an interesting choice.
It is. Won't disagree with that one.
He also didn't, that's not how it read at the meeting either. He was like, this won't significantly affect your budget, and that's not true.
That is also how I remember him.
Yeah.
He definitely said that.
Yeah.
So the issue with that one is if we, you know, if we just use free cash again to plug that hole, we're, you know, it won't be there next year. This is an ongoing budget. We're gonna, you know, it screams for an override vote.
Which again kind of brings us back around to the question of how much of an override vote can we even ask for and have it be passable in town. I don't think 14% is gonna pass. I would be very surprised if there's that kind of support in town for that much. So the question becomes, how much can we ask for, still fund the town in a way that doesn't, you know, leave huge gaps in what we're offering for services, but then also has a good chance of being able to actually pass at both town meeting and then also at the town elections, because it has to pass both hurdles.
But if we go with a lower number so that it passes and then the town is not fiscally sustainable the very next year,
Yeah.
that's sort of a problem.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Yeah.
you know,
It's one of those things where it's like, you know, not to use an analogy, but like you watching Pawn Stars, one of those shows where people are going in to sell their stuff. Like sometimes the person will be asking for $1 million and the Pawn Star person is offering them $200,000 and they get to a point where they say, we're just so far away, we're never going to meet in the middle. And that's kind of where we are right now is like what the town would want to pass and the bottom line for supporting the town and not having like giant holes in our services are still not even that close to each other. And that would be, you know, so yes, I mean, we could ask for 14% override.
how do you start to think about what the range of, well, what is the range of overrides typically in towns when they have them? Like, are there ever 14% overrides passed? Is it always below 7? Like, what's the context, or do we know? If we think about, again, there's individual people in each individual town making their individual choices, but what is the context on what overrides typically
Well, what was the
look like?
percent on our big failed one?
I want to say it was 6 or 7% or something.
Oh, it had to be more. It was $1 million, wasn't it?
750,000, I think.
750?
But that was 20 years ago, like
Still
you
a lot
gotta,
more than 6%
Right.
then.
Yeah.
Yeah, because your
No,
budget
probably
was
more
probably
around
like
the
5 or 6.
10%
back
maybe,
then.
something like that.
Yeah,
Least,
because it was
yeah.
probably,
Because probably we were at a $6 million budget around that, at that point, we're looking at 10 to 12% maybe. Again, and that failed, so that kind of gives us some context of if we can't get that to pass.
and the ones we passed have been small. The two,
Smaller.
one or two that we
Obviously.
passed since then,
250, 300.
yeah.
Yeah.
What was your over the drivers in the one that failed? What was the big increase? I don't remember what
The school.
it was the school. Yeah. I'm just thinking, I know senior center
I mean-
a piece of this one, so.
Yeah.
I don't.
I mean, that's our budget, I mean, 70% of our budget, it's, you know, if something else goes up by crazy, it's this, it has to be the school.
So
The schools, I don't think it was just Sunderland, but we couldn't do anything about Frontier. So it was, you know, Sunderland was the only wiggle room.
So the thing that's not in here is the potential revised elementary school budget.
Right.
Which was around 10%, right?
And-
We've agreed to bring it from 18% down to 10%.
So, you know, that's one thing we can look at here.
I shouldn't say we've agreed. This was the conversation we had last week, and the committee has not had a chance
Right.
to meet yet.
Absolutely.
But this is the understanding that Superintendent Modesto has going into our budget hearing tomorrow night. I'm sorry, I didn't want to
No, please.
misrepresent my committee.
No, absolutely, you weren't, but thank you for clarifying. that.
So that, instead of 4.2 as a budget request, that should be significantly lower.
It's an extra almost $300,000.
yeah, no, it was 650,000.
No, the current budget at
10%.
18% is 650,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
if it's only 10,
It's 298, 630.
So there's that consideration, then there's the consideration about how much free cash to use.
Yep.
And then that's gonna start to land us in some sort of zip code in which, you know, there's not that many other budgets that are that big that we seemingly can move, because Frontier is set. It sounds like South County Senior Center, and maybe that changes if the building thing changes, but that's not like a functional conversation that we can have with somebody about reducing a budget. That's just the decision that gets made over there. So, yeah, I mean, you start to get into a pretty narrow range of still a fairly large number.
Well, and there's two lines. One line is what can we ask the department to cut, and they tighten their belts and hope for the best. And then there's what we ask that involves losing services, like losing full-time officers, losing hours at the library, losing whatever. I mean, I don't know what specifics, but what can departments even cut? One of the hard parts about all this is that it's not like there's all this fat in the budget. We've spent the last every year we go looking and we find we find 20,000 here, we find 10,000 there, and every time we do that, on the other side of that is someone like George saying, yeah, I guess I can do that budget with 20,000 less, except then we get to a year like now and he doesn't have any room. He doesn't have a wiggle room. He's already tightened his belt too many times. So if we take $300,000 out of this for a decrease from the schools, we're still looking at $1 million of difference on the budget side.
But we still have the free cash.
If we use 250 of free cash.
But 250 free cash just gets our revenue side back to zero. So we would still be at the
No,
Sorry,
but
you
you
were already
said-
doing that. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were using the school.
I know it's not the hugest number, but what about the OPEB contribution?
Oh,
We just got it to 50, and we'll put it at 0 for a year and try to build it back in.
how often do we need that money? I guess it's.
Well, the other thing is, we really should take, this week I'll dive into looking at if we can use some of it to help us out of our problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's when you get it over 500,000 that it starts to really climb, and because all the investment rules change a little bit for us.
Okay.
And we're right below 500,000 now. So I don't know, let's look at the possibility, because it is a trust fund, and I believe we have
So we
ability
can
to
both,
use it.
we could choose not to add to it, but we could also choose to draw it down.
Yes. That's what
It's just hard, that's just, again, that would be a 1-year fix that's not gonna look better next year, is the problem,
Yeah.
with doing too much of that.
And again, like last year, we not only dipped into free cash, we also used general stabilization funds to balance the budget. So and that was the concern we had last year is, are we setting this up for this year to be even harder? And the answer was yes, and here we are. But we don't want to continue to do that, obviously.
Well, and just add one more bit of, that is, I guess, in budgets. The other thing I was thinking about is, one of the drivers on the Frontier budget is the percentage share of additional assessment that Sunderland has to pick up, and the fact that that's increased each of the last couple of years. And while obviously enrollments aren't set yet, it's projected to increase again next year. The increase won't be as big a year from now as it was this year. This year went from like 25.3 to like 26.1. But I think the forecast is for it to go up like another 0.5%. So again, that'll mean that if they have another, let's say 3 or 4% budget, our percent is going to be higher again, because we're going to have to pick up a bigger share because there's more kids going through from Sunderland relative to the overall Frontier enrollment. So the good news is, it seems like, given demographic trends, and obviously this is a shot in the dark because you've got, charter schools, tech school, private schools, kids are moving all over out of 6th grade, but it seems like it may stabilize from there for the next couple of years.
That's good news.
So, on the school part, we don't have any, I see there's no Smith bulk assessment, we don't
Yes,
have
there
any.
is. We do. We have 2.
Alright, because
It's, and the way they didn't have it under Smith Oak, it's the
Isn't it in the school?
Tuition.
just the
Yes.
out of
Tuition.
district,
out-of-district tuition is where they
Okay.
had put it.
okay,
And I've increased it significantly because we had only budgeted for 1 student when we had 2 last year. I mean,
Okay.
for 25.
alright, no, I just wanted to make sure, because
No,
I see the
that's a
blank
great
line
question.
there, and, yeah, we gotta probably,
So, and this is just throwing a number out there, but it's just a place to start. We could say, we take our normal 2.5% increase, or our 3.2% increase that we get, and then we're asking for an override of 7.5%. Let's say. That would bring us up to a 10% increase overall for the year. Would still require some cuts, but not drastic cuts, and 7% is in a range, 7.5%, maybe 8%, something like that, is in a range where that's passable to town.
I mean, it's much bigger than anything we've passed.
It is, but smaller than the big one that failed.
Right.
You know, and then we have to build out two budgets. One of them is at that percentage, and then one of them is if it fails, how do we even keep the doors of the school open? You know, which is going to be an interesting one.
So the personnel committee, we met tonight, and they would like wages to not be included in the override. So to like figure out your budget with the wage and then figure out, you know, that your override, if the override doesn't pass, they don't want to see people not get
Kind of pursuant to what I was
Talking
saying
about steps or
before.
colas?
COLAs. Well, COLAs and steps.
Yes.
Well, it just means we have to do layoffs instead of,
Well, and that goes back to what we're talking about with the
Right.
with the insurance committee, is that
that's the
it's a
implied
question of,
assumption is we'd rather have somebody lose their job than everybody not get their COLA. I don't know that
Yeah.
that's the wrong decision, I'm just saying that's
Yeah.
implied.
yeah.
Because we
Right.
can't
Oh,
protect
exactly.
workers, unfortunately.
Right, and the concern there is that there's so many contracted town employees that are gonna get COLAs and steps,
That's fair.
and to take these non-bargaining unit covered employees and tell them they don't, which has happened multiple times in the past.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's their request.
What was the COLA percent?
They have not come up with one yet because,
I haven't been to any of the meetings for one thing.
well, that's why.
You're coming on the 16th.
Am I coming on the 16th?
That's
I
why,
was
you
told
said
you
you were
were.
on vacation on school break.
Yeah, no, yeah.
and you'd be able to come.
So that's 4 o'clock? All right.
4:30.
I didn't have it on my calendar.
I don't think it was decided until today that we were definitely,
All right, I won't, I can go.
yeah. I mean, their thought is 3% would be nice, but obviously,
Regional school transportation.
'Cause it was
I mean, even, you know, for example, if we went with 2.7 or 2.8, which is close to 3, we don't need to round it to be pretty. We can be like, this is what we can,
correct.
you know, it doesn't,
Correct.
people like that 2%, 3%, you know, whatever, 2.5, but we can do
They're- it's
2.73,
just-
you
right,
know?
It's just their reasoning behind it is so many bargaining unit employees are gonna see.
Well, because they didn't get COLAs, they got raises. Those contracts called them COLAs, but they're not COLAs.
They get
Both, there's,
they get the step, which is their, like.
No, but
merit
they
raises,
also
and then
gave
they get
different
COLA.
COLAs to different groups of then it's not a COLA.
Yeah, we saw that.
Well, yeah, and we had a long discussion about that during the negotiation process.
That's
Believe
not-
me, we had a long discussion about that.
That's not how you
long.
do that. You say you get this COLA and then you get this percent as a raise. You don't call it a COLA for,
So the argument, and we don't need to spend a lot of time on it, but the argument was that the people who are at the top of the steps don't get any step increase. And so they were asking in the contract to have the COLA for that top step be bigger so that
we'll
they're
give
getting.
them a COLA and then give them a raise.
Well, yeah, and so.
Don't
Don't
give
call
them-
it a COLA, I'm just saying.
Or call it a wage adjustment, or
Right.
call it something.
Right, but it's not a COLA.
No, I know, and again, believe me, I argued this point for a long time.
Right, but yeah, no, you've just gotta call it a wage adjustment.
Yeah, it's just not, COLAs are, it makes no sense to call it a COLA
Yeah.
then.
No, I agree.
Same percentage for everybody with a COLA, that's the whole point.
Yes, no, I completely agree. I was on that side in the
Yeah.
negotiating
All right.
argument.
All right, I'll do an economics lesson for them next time.
and maybe other people have this question, maybe it's just me, so let's say we get a budget that would work with the override like you talked about, and it passes, then nobody's really happy, but like that's the plan, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, let's say we put that together and it doesn't pass. Functionally, can you explain to me, because I've been through this, now what happens?
So what we are going to have to submit warrant articles to town meeting. And the chronologically in the list, the first one is gonna be do you support, or do you support the override?
Okay.
And if so, then here's the budget for that override.
Yep.
And we would then vote on that warrant article. If the article for the override doesn't pass, we skip over number 14, whatever, and we go to 16, which is the contingent budget that has, this is what the budget would be for each department if it didn't pass. And so we submit both of them basically, and then that's our opportunity in town meeting to stand up in front of the people who show up and explain to them why you should really pass this, because
Right.
this is all the things you're gonna lose if you don't.
Right.
So that's a pro forma budget on a 2.5% increase, and so we need, for example, new budgets from each of the schools and other stakeholders, because otherwise there's no way we're
Yeah,
getting to that
and so
number.
that's where we're at now,
Okay.
is that we need to figure out what our number is for the override, so we can tell them, hey, your top budget is gonna be the town being at 10% over last year, which means that we need to cut still 150,000 from the budget, or 300,000 from the budget. And then we would say another budget, which is we need to give us another budget where the town's cutting $1 million from our budget. And we would be able to say, based on your percentage of the budget, hey, George, you need to cut this much money. Hey, library, you need to cut this much money. And it doesn't have to necessarily be completely across the board. And that's what we talked about last time, was there are going to be some places where, like, for example, the school's already making large cuts before we even
Right,
get to the door.
We gotta look at where we can and where we can't, because how do you cut highway department? Do you just say, we're gonna have no one to plow? We're gonna have.
We're not gonna plow the sidewalks,
Right.
right? That's what we did, we didn't have, we could say we aren't gonna plow the sidewalks, that's not the whole thing, we don't have to.
Correct, but not plowing sidewalks is, that's not really.
It's not $1 million.
It didn't go
That's
well.
Right.
like it's-
No, I know,
And-
but that has to be, you have to add all those things up, though, we
But
have to do it
there's
all.
no doubt.
People took it personally when they stopped plowing the sidewalks in Deerfield.
Yeah,
Well,
but-
It's just
Yeah.
one of those things that
Yeah.
residents will feel
But
it.
honestly, that's the perfect thing to put a contingent on the override, though, is, hey, you don't wanna go out there, you don't wanna shovel your sidewalk, well, then you need to pass the override, and don't come complain to us
Yeah, but
next year if you don't
I
pass the
don't wanna start
override.
with the things that are gonna
Yeah.
hurt people the most and build to $1 million, right? Like,
Right.
it's,
Well, yeah.
but
But-
the one thing I've been thinking about though, because I agreed with you when we talked about it last time about, we don't wanna just say everybody has a budget increase of this, because every budget's different, but I also don't wanna just blindly say, well, all these budgets you submitted is the baseline and just reduce from there, because different people used a sharper pencil than others on their initial budgets.
Correct.
And so somebody floating in a big increase that then cuts it down and ends up with what would have worked in the first place. I'm not accusing anybody of doing that, but just not everybody used the same, in part because the person who did their budget early didn't have all the context on what was coming down the pike. Someone who's revised it more recently, like the schools, this is part of why, where we are in the cycle, they have more information, they've been good partners in trying to get where we need to get to, and other people didn't go through the same time frame. So I'm struggling to think about how to split that balance between
Right.
everybody give me a flat budget from last year, even though it's not gonna be level services, because our revenues are flat and that's the starting point, versus working down from the budgets they submit.
Right, because there are, and I think we have to look at them one by one.
Yeah.
Because again, if we take, and I'll use highway department just as an example because it was already brought up, and let's just keep beating on the same guy, because I can make up to George tomorrow with a phone call. But, right, so if we go to George and say, okay, if you stop plowing sidewalks, how much is that gonna take off your budget? Because there'll be a fuel cost, there'll be this, there'll be that. Is there anything else? Because they're already bringing in seasonal help during the summer because they can't keep up with it. And, okay, what of that seasonal help that you bring in during the summer can be eliminated? And, yep, we're now gonna have brush growing up on the side of the roads because there's nobody to run equipment and cut down the brush on the side of the roads. But, this now needs to become discussions of,
Yeah, but we're not equipped to make those decisions like that.
No,
George
but-
is the person, if we say your budget needs to be this versus last year, whatever has to be cut, that's we know it's terrible, but that's where we need to be.
right, but we have to understand when he comes back and says, I can cut, again, and I'm using
Right.
examples here, some seasonal help and some sidewalk plowing, but I can't cut anything else.
So here's what I would
Because I mean, what do you
Like to
do?
see.
Put people down to part-time in the highway department?
That's
of
what we
two-
did before.
If
Of
the
2 people
override-
though.
Yeah, that's
It's
what we
not-
did before.
Like,
Right, but before.
I mean, if we have to, we have to, right?
Right, but
Yeah,
we
Not
lived,
before the override fails,
but
right?
we lived in a
We
different,
gotta do better.
we lived in a different town then too, right? Like 20 year, or, you know, some of these other overrides we're talking about, there were streets that didn't even exist in town then, that are new in the last 20 years, things like that, that now need maintenance and work, and, you know, it's
So
it's
here,
tough to come up with just you need to cut.
so I think that the answer to the question is that we give them this is the percentage you need to cut.
Yeah.
Then we see what that looks like when they come back to us.
Yeah.
And then we have to sit down and have a hard conversation about which of this can we actually
What-
do,
Right.
and which of this, like, because some of the budgets might be like, yeah, we won't have that service anymore
Right.
at all. And so we then have to, between these two committees, to figure out what can we absorb. And it may be that we go through it and say, okay, yeah, you know, we can do this, 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 and this, and there's a bunch of stuff we can't do, and then we have to go back to them and say, hey, everybody, we need more, because, you know, we couldn't do this
Right.
over here, and we still have $100,000 deficit or something like that at that point.
Right, it's,
Um,
it's just that flat percentage is tough.
It is,
the only way
but,
to start with the list.
yeah, but for me,
Right.
it's not saying like, we're gonna cut 10% for you,
Right.
but tell us what 10% would look like so that we can then make a more informed decision on our end. Or 7% or whatever it is.
Ian has his hand raised.
Yes, Ian, go ahead.
Yeah, just looking at the budget, 75% of our total increase is just from the schools and the South County Senior Center. So no matter how we nickel and dime the rest of the areas, we're not gonna get to the number. There's just no way.
Right.
So we can talk about, you know, not shoveling the sidewalks, but that's not gonna do anything to the overall budget decrease.
No, I mean, the real answer is, I don't know if we're gonna be able to keep this town running if we don't pass an override. Like, I don't know that we have.
That's right,
enough
that's
money
what
to take
I'm
it out of the budget,
saying.
period.
We have to
You know,
Right.
I mean,
present a good argument here. There's just no way
and to be
that we
clear,
can reduce any of, all the other town budgets, even if we cut it by 30%, each one of them, which would mean layoffs and all that, that we would even get to close to the number anyway.
I mean, and to be clear, I'm not suggesting this, but Chief
Yeah.
Eric has come in here a number of times and said, well, the town could choose not to have police service, and we could rely on
Yeah.
the, you know, the state troopers to do, you know, police
Yeah.
service in town. So like, I'm not saying we do that, but like, that's the kind of like horrible cuts we would have to make
Right.
if we don't pass this and we have $1 million we need to find out how to do. Again, I'm not suggesting that,
Right.
but that is the kind of like drastic steps that would be needed to take at that point.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's gonna be, it would have to be really drastic. I mean,
Yeah.
at this point, we'd have to say, you know, like we're closing departments or something. It's, you know, little things aren't gonna add up, I don't think, to making a big difference.
So really what we need to do is work our butts off to try to convince everyone in town to pass the override, because,
I mean, the other thing is that for the schools, there's definitely reductions they can do, but there's reductions they can't do.
oh yeah, a lot of this stuff is
Right.
mandated.
So,
stuff that we-
yes, they can, and when my daughters were there, we lost, you know, art and music and library and computer and all the paras, whatever. But they couldn't cut the gym teacher, they couldn't cut the, you know, like the special ed teachers, like they can't, right?
Right.
So they can't cut, I mean, I'm sure they could cut from 8%, you know, whatever. But they can't, they literally can't cut to, there's probably some, a 6-7% number that they can't go below because of state mandates.
Correct. Correct.
You know, so that means everything else has to get cut. I mean, that means everything gets cut at the school that we like, and everything else gets cut.
Yeah, I am, it's going to make us all shudder when we look at what that
By the way, I didn't mean to criticize the gym teacher, because I don't even know who the gym teacher is. I'm sure we should keep the gym teacher.
They always threaten the gym teacher.
Well, they
too.
can't, this gym is mandated by the state.
Huh.
So maybe if they have 2 days a week, it's only mandated 1 or something, so, you know, but it's mandated, we can't get rid of that. We can just get rid of our
Right,
computer
and even if we
library.
look at, and again, I know it's, you know, special to you, but even if we look at cutting hours at the library, that's such a small chunk of the
I
budget
know.
that say.
And that's true with everything, right?
Yeah, that, you know, we're gonna, even if we reduce the libraries by half, that
It doesn't solve
that
the problem.
doesn't solve a problem.
Well, the town offices, right, everybody went from, you know, whatever, how many hours a week to 4 days a week. The offices being open, we never went back up to 5,
I know.
you know?
So,
So we've been really good at getting by on less, which is awesome. And
Well-
we build things back a little bit, but
so I'm gonna be honest and say that I'm starting to get tired and start to lose the plot a little bit. We've been here for 2.5 hours now. If everyone's okay with it, I'd like us to come up with a number to tell the towns, to tell the departments, come back to us with a 8%, something like that, an 8% decrease, 6% decrease. We can talk about it right now, but we need to give them some number so we can get the ball rolling on getting those numbers in. Because if we don't, we'll never know what we're going to do, and next week we'll be still on the conversation. So what is a number that people are comfortable with? Do we want to say?
we wanted to come up with 2, right? We want to come up with a
I mean,
percent increase, and then we also want a bare bones.
yeah. So, I mean, yes.
Because
So
we have to have that for the town meeting,
Yeah.
we need both budgets.
Then go
Yeah.
5% and a 15%?
Because yeah, we're looking at, if we don't pass the override, we're looking at like 15% cuts.
Yeah.
But we probably can't get 15% of our other schools, we would be talking about 20% cuts for everybody else.
Maybe.
Yeah, so I think what we're trying to get at here is, we need the budget that if the override doesn't pass.
Yes.
We need a dollar amount to come, or a percentage to come up with for an override, but even that percentage that we're gonna come up with for an override, whether you say it's 7.5, 8, 10, there's still gonna be cuts to get to
Yes.
that percentage.
Yes.
So we need to figure out what those cuts are that are gonna get us to that reasonable
Yep.
override amount.
And that we can potentially do even though the schools are a big percent. But it's if the override fails budget, which as Ian said, it's such a big number that.
And honestly, I don't even know if there is a big enough number to ask them to tell us that we'll even be able to meet the non-override passing number. Like we could say, give us 20% decrease, and all the departments come back with 20%, except for the ones that literally can't because they're mandated otherwise.
I don't
that's
think
still
we
not
can
be
do
enough.
this at all without an override.
Yeah.
But we need to see what that school number's gonna be. We need to know what South County Senior Center's budget's gonna be without the override. Because again, it's not a gigantic amount, but that still could be a 70,000 or more difference, right?
72, 8, yeah.
So I have a question, Dan, for you. If the towns don't vote the higher budget to move into
South
the new
County.
building for South County, will that close the door if it doesn't happen this year? Because they waited until town meeting.
Well, yeah, I mean, I
If
don't
we
know.
vote it down, or if we don't have the ability to consider it,
If the other towns don't vote for it,
yeah.
I don't think it's gonna, I mean, the building could sit for another year, I guess, I mean, but he's obviously.
Okay,
looking at
so
other
we don't
ways.
know.
I don't think he's willing to.
So do we say we want a 5% decrease and a 20% decrease?
Yeah, I mean, I
We
think
just need
we're
to
just
do
making numbers up
something.
anyways,
15's not enough.
and it gives us.
Not for the, I mean,
To raise $1 million without an override.
Yeah.
And I imagine that 700.
I mean, I don't think 20% is gonna be enough, but let's start with that, at least it's something.
But give us an
drastic for
idea
us to
where we
work with,
are.
right?
And no, I don't think any department head's gonna be able to give us more than 20% even if we ask, without it being like, as I
We're
said,
not gonna
like,
have a highway
we-
department.
That's
we-
why
or
I-
we don't have police services 3 days a
Right,
week
but
or
we might
whatever.
not.
But if we leave it at 15 and,
But 20 won't, I mean, the schools can't cut, right? They have all these things they legally can't cut. And they're
well, that's
70%
why
of our
I'm saying
budget.
we should do it at 15 because they've already cut.
No, but if we don't ask everyone else to do 20, we can't make up that difference on that non-override number.
Yeah, we're asking for, what you're saying is we're asking for 20 because some people aren't gonna be able to do 15, and so we need to ask for 20 for everybody so that
Right.
when somebody comes in at 11, because that's the most they can possibly do, we
Right.
end up in the 15 range.
Right.
And I think it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, 15%, 20%. we might end up having to go up or down on either one of those numbers.
Yes,
We just
but
need to
at
have
least
some
we
idea
gotta
of
tell
what
them right now.
that
Right.
general range looks like. Does everybody feel comfortable with a 5% and a 20%?
I mean, it's,
I don't feel
Of
comfortable.
what? You're talking about reduction from their submitted budgets or from last year's budget?
From their submitted budgets.
you could also say from last year's budget.
I mean, Becky, if you feel strongly that 15% is the better number, I'm fine with that. I just worry it's not
I
enough.
think 20 just puts the department heads at a like, they can't.
Yeah,
cope
well,
most.
we can't change
But let's
frontiers.
look- But
We
first,
can't,
let's look at the numbers, let's look at what the departments had, because you know, you got a $500,000 budget, you tell the police to cut $50,000, that's, you know, that's his new full-time officer he just spent 2 years trying to get.
yeah, and he's not gonna get it if we don't have an override,
Right.
that's my point, we need 20%. Like, we can't,
That was 10%.
okay, but,
I'm just saying 20%,
yeah,
if you're telling the police department to cut 100,000 out of their department,
that's what happens if we don't have an override, if
Yeah,
we don't
but-
have an override, Becky, that's the number.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably.
Yeah,
It's
20%.
probably more than that.
At least 20%. It's more than 20% if we're
It's
gonna get
awful,
to that number without
but
cutting.
that's
the
what the
schools.
number is.
Yeah,
it's
it's awful.
probably 50%.
Yeah, and so,
So at least starting with 20%, it's scary, but it's probably not even enough.
no, I mean, and you know, we've said this a number of times, but all of this is just, do we have a town or do we not have a town? Is really what it comes down to. Like, do we have like municipal government that functions or do we not?
Right,
And so,
if they can't be cutting stuff that can't be cut, all right? You can't take that energy line and cut it by 20%, because no matter what, you have fuel costs, you have energy costs, you have insurance costs. There are some things on here that you can't cut a
Right.
penny off of. You know, just, you know, again, as silly as it seems, we can't cut the postage line because for elections, we're required to mail all the election material.
Right. But we can close the library and the town hall and everybody for one more day a week and not heat them as much. I mean, that's, the thing is, that's what, you
Right,
know.
but there's certain things that
Yes.
just
They get heated just as
cannot be
much
cut,
when
no
it's
matter
closed.
how
They
hard
do,
we
it's
try.
driving me nuts.
The one thing I say, I still think looking at cuts or whatever from last year's budget, because the budgets that were presented had all these plans for next year. All those plans have changed. Schools' plans have changed, police plans have changed, our plans have changed, everybody's plans for next year have changed. I appreciate that that's what they presented, I'm sure, and I know all the things, there's a lot of great things in there, but I think the starting point for the budget work going forward is whatever percentage we agree on from last year's budget, because that's what we're dealing with.
FY26 budget.
And
I
I'm not-
like that. You go with the 26 and cut from the 26 budget. Yep.
And it stinks, because some people happen to have things come up this year that either they have to do or they're excited about. I get it, but there's no way to parse all that. The only thing we can do is say, starting from a level playing field of what everybody had last year, and we're gonna try to figure this out. And we're gonna end up having to swap things around, because it's not the same across postage isn't the same as cutting this or that, so I get that. But I get nervous about introducing the initial budgets, which had a wide range of new investment or expense increase from level services in them. And it's just a totally new playing field. Like the whole game has changed right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's a good way to approach it, is base it off the 26 budget. Then we get out of all the things that was just discussed.
So like the
So-
assessment
And so
budget,
the employee lines are also gonna go up, or whatever the personnel committee says, right? So that means they're gonna have to cut by more than 5% of other things.
well, especially the departments that have contracts and contract.
Well, but even if we say we want our regular time, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
That's
Hopefully we scare the pants off of the citizens and they approve the override. I think we have to present the repercussions of it.
Yeah, but we also have to present a view that if this passes, then things will be on a good trajectory.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's my biggest concern.
That's all right.
As bad as the failed override would be and will be if it happens, I'm as concerned, if not more, that even after this additional investment, this still isn't on a trajectory that we can sustain. That's my concern.
No, I absolutely,
So if we
and,
go too low, that'll happen.
Right.
yeah.
Right, but we still can ask for those, we can still say we need 5% and
So-
20%, or
Yes.
3% and 20%,
Do
or
we
whatever.
want to do, and I know we had discussed this a little bit last time, but we all had the option of doing 3 budgets in the town meeting. A high override, a lower override, and no
No,
override.
I know, but-
I know there's a lot of problems with that, but, you know, that is an option always.
Or a menu.
Or a menu where,
override.
like, each department's override is separate, and are you voting on this one? Again, my problem with that is that you're gonna have more people in town who only care about one thing and vote no on everything else, but if everybody does that, everything fails.
I was thinking more of like the school request. They want either $20,000 for FSA, or they want $20,000 for a 3% change in their premium. That's an ideal.
That's true, we could leave some of that stuff up to the.
Well, if we don't get an override, we're not gonna get either of those.
Well,
I know.
there's that too. All right, can we decide on a number for this? It sounds like we're trying to decide between 5 and 15 and 5 and 20, is that correct?
520, I think.
Is 5 and 20 something everybody's comfortable with?
I mean, I think it's probably not enough, but at least it's a
It's
scary
a
number
starting point,
that
it's a place
shows-
for us to be able to look at.
And we might not, and to get a real budget, we might have to say, hey, we're gonna take more than you said, but at
Yeah.
least they're letting, you know.
It gives us a place to be able to then compare 1.3 million and 200,000 and say, okay, now we're closer, how do we close the gap, how do we make it work? Okay, so Becky, please reach out to the town departments, express our sorrow at the whole
I have
thing.
a question.
Yes.
For the sake of having the town understand what a failed override would look like, would you also like to ask for another modified budget from the elementary school?
Yes.
Not that we would vote on it, not that we would present it at our budget hearing tomorrow, but,
Yes.
what figure would that be?
So,
So that would
and that goes into the conversation you guys are just having about using the 26 numbers, is if we use the 26 numbers for the school as their starting place, and then ask them to go down from there, they can't go down from there physically.
Well, they can. They get rid of art and music and library
No,
and
I mean-
computers
Every
and,
classroom IA.
right.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, like, we could, in theory,
We need that though, if we're gonna have, that will happen.
yeah.
So we need that budget, that scary budget.
So if you give me a number, I will give it to Darius.
What's the number we tell the school? We tell the school the same thing we tell everybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if then they say we couldn't do 20% because we literally cut out everything that isn't legally mandated, and that's it.
Okay,
It makes sense to ask everybody the same thing.
yep.
Everybody's in a different situation, but that's,
I know that's not the answer you want, but it's where we
So
are.
Process.
Yep,
So we're doing cuts of 5% and 20% from FY26 budgets.
that's the ask. And then we will take what we get from them and figure out how to reconcile it all.
So they'll itemize what's gonna get cut.
Yeah, they'll say, I'll cut,
yeah, add
60,000
a
and-
description sheet to us and explain what they could do and what they couldn't do
Yeah.
and what it was. And
So I'm just thinking.
Yeah, I think that having a narrative presentation will be easier for us to transcribe for the town meeting. So if they can articulate what they were actually cutting in like a 1 page or something like that would be helpful. Because that's the pitch.
yep.
I'm just trying to think through, so we have roughly flat revenues when we went through that at the very beginning of this. So if the override fails, we need to have flat expenses in order to make it.
Yes.
Right. So when we're asking everybody for the override failing scenario to cut 20% of their budget, obviously we wouldn't have to cut 20% from all the budgets, but we're thinking that some of the budgets will not be able to go down 20%. So
Like
we need
the
to have
schools?
some that will.
So
Frontiers
will just
can.
amount-
Just
Or
trying to
the
level set,
treasurer,
like-
collector, or
Yeah.
accountant.
Okay.
well, I mean, a treasurer accountant, you say work less hours. I mean, everybody,
Well, the accountant though was a
It's a
contracted,
contract.
right, but not everybody.
Well, some can say we
And they
can't
level
do it
budget it.
because of these reasons. You know, they can
right, because there's
explain
gonna
it.
be the cost that we we can't do anything about the health insurance, we can't do anything about Medicare. We can't, you know,
We
those.
can't do anything about the union contracts, we can't do anything
Right,
about the
so
state
those are
mandates at the
things that we
schools, like,
can't get the 5% or the 20% savings on, so.
So one thing I will say is, and while this is certainly not my recommendation, we can lower the town's contribution for health insurance. If we're talking about massive cuts across the board, like that is one thing we can do. We can go both directions in that. I don't want to, but like, don't take that necessarily off the table entirely. Like that is something we can make a change to. It will be wildly unpopular in amongst the employees in town.
So will every one of these decisions.
Yes, but I'm just saying, like, you know, we're at a place where really don't count anything out unless it's something that, like, the town
including
would get
the
sued by the
COLA that
state
the
board.
personnel
if we
committee
didn't
wants,
do.
like, you know, we can't count anything out,
Yeah.
right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, we have a number for Becky to go out to the town departments for. We will be meeting next Monday. I'm assuming you guys are already aware and on board for that. And by then, we will hopefully have some preliminary numbers from the town departments for what those cuts would look like, and we can have.
Yeah, so we're asking for this crazy budget, and we're also asking them to do it quickly.
We are, which is unfortunate.
So we want it Monday.
I mean, what we need is we need what their best, what they can give us on Monday. We need that. If it's not what we asked for, it's what it is on Monday, and we'll go from there.
If it's back of the envelope calculations is all they can get us, that's helpful. If it's a full budget, that's great.
Yeah, we understand that it's a very tight turnaround.
And so what decisions are being made next Monday?
That's a good question. We look at what we get.
I don't think we'll have everything by
Yeah, I don't think we'll have everything by next Monday, but let me put it this way. I'm hoping by next Monday, we're instead of looking at 1.3 million, we're looking at, or 1.5 million, we're looking at 800,000. Or we've found a way to be able to, you know, bring that a lot closer, and then the following week we're at 300,000, and then the following week.
But would it make more sense to give a little more time to get better numbers? I'm just trying to work backwards from the
Yeah, that's
actual
what I
deadline.
was gonna give the people.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I'm worried about how much time we have left and how many meetings we have left.
Right.
Right, because that following week
It is
is the meeting
with the senior,
in South Deerfield with everybody, so
Yeah.
So we don't have ours.
right.
Right.
Not that we couldn't go from there and come back here and.
Oh, yeah,
Or
because
schedule
that
a different
will
day
be-
that week or whatever.
I know I'll get lost between South Deerfield and here.
Yeah.
So our deadlines are, we have to set what the override, when's the town warrant deadline? When does all that have to come together? What week?
I think we said the
Friday
next.
is the deadline for warrant articles, and the 27th is what Peter brought up at the end of the meeting. It's when we have to have the ballot written for the override.
The 27th of which month?
March.
Yeah.
Because, but the select board could push out the annual town meeting, is one thing Wendy said, but it wouldn't change the date of the override, so it makes no sense. Because
We'd have
then
to
you
push
have the
off the-
override before you have annual town meeting to explain it.
We would have to also reschedule the election in order to make that work.
She said we can't change the election.
Oh, right, because it's part of the bylaws, yep, okay.
There is
Okay.
a week in between the town meeting and the election. You could push the meeting a week.
Or 6 days or something, yeah, okay.
And we have pushed town meeting before, and what really stinks when you push town meeting, because it happened to me, it got pushed the year that I got elected. I got elected, and they didn't have the town meeting until June, so the guy who had worked on the budget for the whole year was gone, and I had like a month.
To learn the budget.
And I just sat there going,
Well, luckily for us, it's ostensibly Dan who's gonna be our new member, so
Right.
hopefully that won't be the case.
right,
But no, it absolutely gets to go quickly there. So, again, because I'm starting to lose the plot, our plan for next week is to hopefully have some numbers from some people, understanding that we likely won't have everything from everybody. But it'll give us somewhere to go, somewhere to start looking at numbers, somewhere to start.
We wanna get as best as we can, really, we need to push, but I understand, so we.
And so then by 23rd, we have to have that done.
We,
That's all
that's the meeting where basically we're making all of our decisions, and if
Well, the 23rd, again, we gotta remember, we are
We
first,
have to come back
Yeah.
here and from.
or else
Deerfield.
we meet here first and head over there,
Or we schedule a Tuesday meeting for that week or something like that for us, or some other day. Not necessarily ideal, but
Anybody free on the 24th?
no big deal.
The library trustees have a meeting, but I could come to this instead. Should we schedule a Tuesday meeting for that week? It's better to know in advance.
Yeah, I'd rather schedule it now than wait too late and have it be harder.
because we could always cancel it if for
Yep,
some reason we don't
let's
need it.
plan on having a Tuesday, March 24th, 6:30 meeting. And of course, we can change that if we need to.
Is,
And hopefully the clock didn't get changed yet.
It
It's
didn't.
really 9:20.
It is 9:20, yes.
it is
Yes.
9:20.
Yep.
So we gotta look and see what some of the,
From Jennifer.
So you'll communicate to departments, Becky? That's-
Yes.
okay.
Alrighty. This is my least favorite part of this whole process.
Can't read without my glasses.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second. So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ian?
Yep, all good.
Thank-
Alrighty. At this,
Oh, great,
well,
she's
we,
sending.
Detail.
let's blow through the rest of our agenda quickly.
Okay.
For old
Jen
business.
is sending the South County Senior Center second budget.
No,
In the morning.
no, she said only one budget was submitted to the other towns.
Yeah,
As
but
you
she
can-
has
as you
one.
can- Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
she did do it, but the other towns wouldn't take it.
All right.
We will.
We
we
will.
will,
Alright, old business, select board updates. I have nothing.
nothing.
Nothing, right? Alright, good. Becky, do you have anything for us?
I have nothing.
Wonderful. At this time, anyone online? Aliana, do you have any questions for us?
Good night.
Oh, I just want to make sure I'm understanding the numbers. So 5% is to get it to the override essentially as a baseline, 20% is if there's a failed override.
Correct. That's what we're asking our department. Yep.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me or Becky and we can help you with that.
Yeah.
All right.
She probably needs a copy of the budget.
Yep. All right.
I'll
Thank you very
send her
much.
a copy of the budget.
Anyone in
Aliana.
town? No one wants to. All right, wonderful. At this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion we adjourn.
Second.
We have motion made, seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. 9:22. Thank you, everybody. I'm gonna go home and